Good evening, everybody. Evening, ding. Yeah, anyway. Hello, everybody. And it is the very long time in coming Cute Retro Games Roundtable Volume 2. Joining me tonight, as always, is Mike.
You.
And let's see. Also, back with us again is Kate.
Hello.
And making his return appearance again is Kyle.
Howdy, howdy.
All right. So, let's see. How do the audio levels sound? Anyone can hear me?
Yep, can hear you loud and clear.
Cool.
Totally.
Okay. Let's do a chat test here. Just want to make sure this is up and running because I don't see anything. So, then again, it could be just there's nobody here yet. Anyway, so what have you guys been playing in the time since we did the last Cute Retro Game stream?
You mean whether or not they're retro?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, lots of Street Fighter 6. There's this one by the name of Dave the Diver that's been making rounds and I've really gotten into. And Double Dragon Gaiden, which is just recently released. I'm actually digging that one quite a bit.
Yeah, I just saw something about that one. And I remember you telling me about Dave the Diver. That's a very odd concept for a game.
Yeah, but shoot, it's working. I'd say it's kind of a cute game at times, although some elements have gotten a little bit more horrific now that I'm this far in, but that seems to be what a lot of games are doing nowadays. I'm all for it, honestly.
Ah, there's the chat. And yes, Sharon is here. She's joined us right at the beginning of the stream for a change.
Howdy, Sharon.
And just for her, we're going to go ahead and rip apart Arrow the Acrobat or something. I don't know. I'm messing with her. Anyway.
Oh my god.
I hear the sequel was much better for what that's worth, if anything.
You know, I never thought Arrow was actually a bad game.
Yeah, no. Among the glut of mascot platformers of the time, it's honestly decent.
Yeah, we're still not going to really go into any detail about those because that just opens up the door to Sonic, which opens up the door to Mario, and I don't want a 6-hour-long roundtable.
Oh,
Yeah,
God. Be here literally all night.
Yeah, no thanks. Not happening.
And then you get lots of comments from the gallery on SMB 3 being the best one of all time, and I'm sure that's going to set you off.
Well,
The best mascot platformer?
just the best platformer, period. It's bad enough when people just constantly rate it as number one on the best NES games of all time list. And I mean, Mike and I and another friend of ours, Sam, who you may remember from some of the early roundtables, actually did our own top 100 NES games. I think Mario 3 came in at what, 87?
97.
97, that's right.
I admit it was a little bit rigged, but the fact of it is, it wouldn't even been on there if I wasn't being the merciful one, so...
And he was being the merciful one. I just thought the game was overstuffed and overlong.
It
That
really
sounds
needed
like quite the placement.
it needed a save feature, which I know
Yes.
that's what the All-Stars version has, but what if I wanted to play the NES version with the NES graphics, which I like more? Huh?
It's funny, I remember actually getting the All-Stars cartridge and playing Mario 3 on that, and it was like, wow. It's so colorful. And then going back and playing the NES game, it's like, this is so bland.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes.
I can,
Wow.
as someone whose childhood was really based off of Mario All-Stars, I can actually agree with Dyer there. Mario All-Stars really hits home for me. Like, I've played the NES originals and they're great for what they are, but like, I don't know, there's something special about Mario All-Stars. Like, that game just really hits home for me.
Well, dude, don't get me wrong, I do like it quite a bit, and the graphical touch-ups are certainly really impressive. I'm just kind of a boomer who just likes the NES style a little too much. I'm sorry.
I can get that. I can get that.
And I see
I
we
think
have Ruby
I'm-
in the chat. Hello, Ruby.
Hello, Ruby.
Hello, Ruby.
Oh yeah, Ruby, what up?
I think I'm going to be the dissenting opinion here and say that I think Super Mario Bros. 3 is awesome.
You
Nah,
go
I can
right
get
ahead,
that.
Kate.
Lots of
Alright.
people do. It's fine. Dyer and
Oh,
I
yeah.
are the wrong Dyer and I are the ones who are on the wrong side of the tracks, and we're fully aware of this.
Oh,
so-
completely.
I
Completely.
just find it really funny that, like, me saying Super Mario Bros. 3 is really good is actually the unpopular opinion here.
Nah,
I will
no, it's fine.
I will give Mario 3 one thing. Karibo's shoe.
Yes.
I just wish it was in more than one level, but yes.
Yeah, no
Yes.
kidding. For how good it is, it's just like, oh, here you go. It's just in one it's literally in one level.
Still,
It is a
it's
total
the shoe.
power.
Yeah, exactly. You get to ride the giant shoe.
So hey,
Anyway, this is just the warm up. I don't know if we're still waiting for more people to flood in, but
yeah, if more people show up, we'll begin talking about our main subject soon. But first, Kyle specifically requested before we began to have an aside to talk about some of the cute things in the Goemon games, and
What? Okay.
I think, well, for one thing, to do an entire roundtable about that series would take forever. But
Oh, yeah.
as an aside, just to talk about some of the cute things in the game, I say go for it. Kyle, floor is yours.
Well,
Have
wonderful.
fun.
Thank you so much. I'm very honored to have this little piece of the floor. But okay. Well, something that I admire about speaking of the Ganbare Goemon franchise, or the as often localized in North America, Mystical Ninja franchise. Yes, I noticed that there are quite a few cute things. For example, I noticed the main characters. I think they have a bit of a cuteness to them and their designs. I'm especially a big fan of the character of Edie Sumaru. I think his character design is very cute. He has the cute little round nose, which kind of reminds me of the character designs of the great Osamu Tezuka. You may know him for such series as Astro Boy and Kimba the White Lion and lots of other just classics, Japanese comics and animation of of that golden era.
Oh yeah.
But yes, I love the character designs of the main cast of Goemon, of Ibi Sumaru, Yai, and Sasuke. I think they all look very charming and adorable while also looking a little badass. I'm also a big fan of just a lot of the enemy designs in the series. One of my very favorites is of the Nintendo 64 game, The Legend of Mystical Ninja, starring Goemon. I'm a big fan of, in speaking of that enemy design, I love the basic ground floor enemies of that game. It's so the main villains of that game are these Japanese performer artists. They're dancers, and what they want to do is they want to make the greatest stage on Earth, and they take over pretty much all of Japan, and they want to make Japan the greatest stage on Earth. They want to make it like the greatest performance area on the planet. And one of their common goon enemies are these little girl robots. Like, they have these very odd looking faces. They look kind of angry, but not really. But they just have this very kind of blank, angry face on them. And I don't know, I think that particular enemy design is very cute. They have a bunch of different formations of them. They have the girls in the pink dresses that just walk around. They have girls in blue dresses that have little gift boxes that shoot bullets at you. They have girls in little green dresses that jump over you. One of my very favorites is the last form of the girls. I believe they're in orange dresses. They have little jetpacks, and they just jetpack at you. And I'm a big fan of that. There's also these like big girl robots that have bouquets of flowers, and they hit you with them. Like they wind up like they're holding baseball bats, and they try to hit you with them. And I think that enemy design is very charming and very cute, while also just being very menacing. I feel like Konami, as a company, with that series, they really hit it out of the park. I'm such a big fan of the Goemon franchise. Next to Earthbound, like Earthbound and the Goemon franchise, I think just those two those two games and series in themselves are what made me like a gamer. I grew up with all the classics, of course, but I just feel like my tastes are based around those two series. Just taking parts of time, whether they be the odd medieval part of Japan or modern day, 90s modern day America. I love those two eras for like setting video games, and I think those are very interesting, and I think you can do all sorts of just weird things with those settings, and I love it. So yeah, I want to just give a little special shout out while we have this roundtable going to the Ganbare Goemon franchise, also known as, for most of its localization, as Legend of the Mystical Ninja. There's lots of just various cute things in there, and I think they are worth giving a shout out for.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Wonderful.
I know I've played the 8 and 16-bit games fairly extensively, except for the two RPGs for the Famicom.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, those exist too. The little the Dragon Quest like games. Those are charming. It's Konami, so you can't really go wrong.
That's very true. The one I currently have, I think, 2, 3, and 4 out of the 1, 2, and 4 out of the Super Famicom games.
Right. Yes.
Those I think are the best ones.
And luckily, a lot of pretty much all of the Super Famicom Goemon games are all now translated. So if you've ever wanted to dive into those, now you can, and now you can understand what's going on. It's easy to see what's happening in the storyline, and like whenever you need to go save your game or anything, you can now understand what's going on, and I love it. That's wonderful.
So here's a question for you then. Mm-hmm. If you've played the translated the first game, is it more accurate to the original Japanese than Legend of the Mystical Ninja was?
Yes, it is. They have, for one thing, the correct names. I will never understand Konami of America's name choice for Goemon and EBC Mario as Dr. Ying and Kid Yang, because I'm like, that doesn't even sound Japanese. I don't understand that. That's just odd.
We're talking about late 80s.
Go ahead, Dyer. I know what you're going to bring up.
I think it was 92 or so.
Yes, 1992.
Late 80s, early 90s, Konami of America, their localizations were questionable at best.
Yeah. I'm happy they, I will say, for all the things I don't like about their localization, I will say I'm glad they took a chance and localized it anyway, because, that game was an introduction to me, and I oddly enough, Legend of the Mystical Ninja was one of the few SNES games that my family owned. Because we usually, more the case, rented games than owned games, but one of the few games that we actually did own for Super Nintendo was Legend of the Mystical Ninja. We had Mario World, we had Mystical Ninja, we had Sim City, we had Lemmings, and we had, I believe, we had one of the NHL games, because my older brother was a very frequent hockey player, so of course we had a hockey game.
I think that may have actually been the Times that played more to it then, because really all Konami had ready for the Super NES when that came out was Gradius 3, which had been released originally, and then Super Castlevania 4. I mean, we weren't going to see Contra 3 until, the following year.
Yeah.
And, of course, the other stuff like Axley and whatnot, but I guess that's why they took a chance on it.
Yeah.
So, now, Mike, you had something you wanted to say about the series?
I just want to mention I always thought Sasuke was an adorable little bean of a robot.
Yes, he is. His character design, especially as a robot, is very cute. One of my favorite things about Sasuke is that one of his attacks is I know it's very primarily available in the 2D games, is that his little hairpiece, he shoots it up. He can shoot it up as an attack. I love that. That's wonderful.
Yeah. It's an extendo spike. That's really nice touch.
That's awesome. I love that.
I do think of it. Quite a bit of Goemon's cuteness just springs from its generally parodic nature, like of
Definitely.
of Konami's big series, outside of course, Parodius. It was by nature just their silliest, just most off the wall series that they could possibly make, and I think that sort of Gonzo approach really went into what dictated the action. I admit I never really thought of it as a cute series, but I could see where you're coming from with that. Like, the first Goemon game, the one we got in the SNES, it has 2 cats in it, and they're both very adorable.
Yes, they are. And of course, you collect silver kitties too, and those silver kitties, they increase your
Neko,
yeah, they increase the power of your weapon, and in the Zelda-like games, they increase your life form, so you get more and more hearts.
I guess you could consider Goemon kind of a sort of a riff on Zelda in some respects, although they didn't really go full Zelda until the 3rd game on the SNES. But
yeah, that was very much of that as the subgenre.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I was gonna say,
I don't think I have much of them.
Okay. Before we get into the meat of things, how is everyone doing tonight?
I'm doing okay, I guess.
So, and I hope everyone out there in chat's doing all right.
Yeah.
I see Geek Historians
I'm doing
joining
pretty
us.
well. I don't know how it happened, but I woke up with a bit of back pain. But I have been taking my meds and drinking lots of water and getting lots of rest. So I'm, slowly getting better.
Oh, good.
Feel better.
Yeah.
No, it happens to me quite a bit, unfortunately. I know where you're coming from, and hey, these are good beds. My back's just stupid.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have back problems, but man, I got hip problems.
Oh, God, yikes.
Not much better.
No,
Oy.
no, not much at all. So, and I hope our volume sounds okay. If anyone listening wants to let us know how it sounds, by all means, please do. And once we get a confirmation on that, then we'll go ahead and jump into everything we weren't able to discuss last time because we ran out of time.
Oh, of course.
The text shark is here. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, text.
Howdy.
Perfect. All right. So this whole thing about Goemon just gives me a perfect opportunity to segue into the first series I wanted to discuss, which is the YY World series.
Oh, very.
Yes.
I remember seeing the first one, back when I first got online and started experimenting with emulation, seeing pictures, and I was like, what is this? It's like a crossover. How come we didn't know about this? Well, then I played it, and it's not quite all it was cracked up to be, but the second one more than made up for it. And the first one's still a decent game, don't get me wrong. But the second one pretty much blew it away in everything. But if I remember correctly, Goemon is a playable character in both of those.
Yes, he is.
That he is, yes.
Along with, let's see, other characters like Simon Belmont, Mike's avatar here, Upa.
Yep.
And
speaking of Mike, Mikey from the Goonies in the first one.
Heck yeah.
Surprised they were able to have that license. Although, when the first game was re-released on cell phones, they had to sub him out because obviously they didn't have the license to use Shawn likeness anymore.
Yeah, they had to sub
That
out
and,
King Kong. He was another one
Sorry.
they had in the original game. They had to sub him out too.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
For obvious
yes.
reasons, yeah.
Not having the license anymore from Warner Brothers or, I believe King Kong was RKO, I think. For copyright companies.
By the time that came out, I think Universal Studios owned the copyright.
Universal Studios, there we go, thank you.
Yeah, because RKO had been out of business for a while.
Right, yes, there we go.
So, but it's, whichever way it's sliced, the first one is still decent, and I love the fact that that's the game that basically introduced Konami Man and Konami Girl. Or
Yes,
Konami Woman,
love it.
whatever you want to call her. and that you can just change back and forth between the two of them on the fly is great. And you get Professor Cinnamon in there from Twinbee. Penta, he shows up basically to help you select where you're going to go. Everyone has to have seen this. When you activate the transporter and that to go to the stage you picked, it zaps them and they're all just like, wah!
Wah!
I have yet to really make a serious dent in the game, though. I've tried.
The first the first YY World is particularly tough. Like,
yes.
For being so cutesy, it's pretty tough.
It's also nice they included Fuma from Getsu Fumaden.
Right, there we go.
And in the second one, of course, you got Bill Reiser from Contra.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, Bill and Upa were both added into the sequel, whereas Goemon, Simon, and curiously enough, Fuma were retained. I appreciate that Konami had so much appreciation for Getsu Fumaden, despite the fact that, unless there's some sort of obscure spin-off out there, it's really the only game of its kind. Yet, and of course, we never got it in the West, so which I find double weird because it is quite a nice game. But
Getsu Fumaden did finally get an English, or not an English release, but a release outside of Japan. It was available as a pre-order bonus for the remake on Steam.
Right.
They just included the Famicom ROM untranslated, which is kind of funny.
That's
effort, Konami. Congratulations, you idiots.
No kidding.
And welcome Brandon into the stream. And
hello, man. What up?
He asks, is it a coincidence that the Fantasy Zone game is separate from Space Harrier, yet they started by welcoming you to the Fantasy Zone, and of course both are Sega franchises? And yes. I think they are connected, though.
I mean, there was a prototype of I believe a PC Engine CD game that was going to be a crossover Space Harrier and Fantasy Zone, where you play as yeah, exactly, where you play as Opa in the behind-the-back perspective that Space Harrier did. And that would have been so cool, and I don't know why it got canceled, and it really sucks that it did. But yeah. I think there's some prototype of it floating out and around there. Maybe.
There is, actually. So, cool. I believe I played it briefly once. And it plays a lot like Space Harrier on the Turbo. But you have the item shops, too.
I'm a big fan of that game only because the ending to it is just one of the, speaking of cute games, one of the cutest things on the planet. And the ending is, what happens is the ending has a bunch of like childlike drawings of what happened, and like the Opa ship has like a little smiley face, and like it's basically telling the story of like how he beat the final boss, and was like, the final boss was being very mean, but then I made him be nice, and the shop lady said I did a good job, and like everyone has like smiley faces, and like when it shows
right now, it's very cute. Sorry.
Yeah, and no, it's okay. And then when the Opa is like shooting the bad guy, the villain, like the boss has like a cry face, like he's crying, and like after he beats him, the boss is still crying, and then like the Opa like comforts the final boss, and like the final boss starts smiling again, and I'm like, that is the cutest thing ever. Oh my god.
That would officially make it the most lighthearted Fantasy Zone game ever.
Yeah,
yes. Because the endings of all the other ones are depressing for some reason.
Yes, they
depressing.
What the yeah, no, it's a shame that we didn't get that, because it's a little short, but it seems almost complete from
it does.
It does. Watching. Real shame. Anyway, back to the YY World games. The thing about the first one is that it has it's not quite like Simon's Quest, but it has a somewhat non-linear approach. You get to select from 6 stages, and they're all completely non-linear. They have some adventure-y aspects to them, but yes.
All right, just for that.
That burp was unintentional.
Oh my
You get
gosh.
Well,
Wow.
I have carbonated water with me. In retrospect, that was a poor idea, but I didn't have
Uh-uh.
time. So, anyway, so yeah, the game. Each stage is not linear, and they're filled with pretty dickish enemies, which are all kind of spongy for some reason. Also, the game's really unobvious about what order you're supposed to go in. Most of them will just kind of turn you away pretty soon in when you realize you don't have the right character to get through whatever gate it has. You are pretty much supposed to go for the Castlevania level first, so it's I guess a little bit of a false choice illusion there. It is interestingly structured, and if you do manage to get far enough, hey, it has a shmup level near the end where you get to pick either the Vic Viper or Twinbee, but it is a pretty rough cut of the game. It doesn't feel like fully tested, like some of the enemies are just real BS to deal with, and it's a little iffy. But the second game is much easier, maybe a little bit too easy, but I'd rather it go all the way in the other direction. And I feel it is, of course, more linear, but there are a lot of stages to play, and it's very colorful. And for the most part, it's more fast-paced. I will have to criticize it because the first level is a rather slow auto-scroller, and that's not the best first impression to give off, but after you clear that, the game gets much faster paced and much better. It's just you just kind of have to tolerate that. Again, it is a little bit easy, but it's really damn fun. I'd say it would. I know this term's kind of frowned upon nowadays, but it kind of is a bit of a hidden gem among imports in the system. Yeah, definitely worth a check. If you have to only play one, play the second. The first one, it's not going to be up everyone's alley.
Yeah, I admit the auto-scrolling part initially did throw me, but once I got past that and got into it, I was like, okay, I can play this. This is good. Kate, you have any thoughts on the WoW World Series at all?
No. I actually imported YY World 2 like years ago. It was the first original Famicom game that I ever bought, but to be honest, I've barely played it at all.
Yeah, you can
I
probably...
mostly just got it because I was curious about the fact that Bill Reiser cameoed in it, because I was really interested in checking out a bunch of Contra-related stuff then.
Well, I gotta say, if you get a chance to go through it, you probably complete it in, 45 minutes? And you'll blow right through it. You're skilled enough.
And of course, Bill Reiser in this game, and YY World 2 is chibi, which I love. Like, all the characters in YY World 2 are chibis, and I love that so much.
I see.
Yep.
And I believe it is the cutest that Bill has ever been portrayed.
He's all angry. He's all angry. He has like a big angry face, but I'm like, oh, that's so cute. Look at him. He's all grumpy.
Although I'm not sure if I could say it's the cutest that Belmont has ever been portrayed, because there's that weird, like, short, I want to call it error game on Rondo of Blood if you have the wrong card.
Right, yes.
Really weirdo spherical version of Richter.
Very cute.
It's so great, yeah.
So, all in all, decent series. First one's got issues, second one might be too easy, but hey, it's still fun playing. But,
definitely.
That little side tangent that we went off on about Fantasy Zone does give me another segue into another game I wanted to discuss. And that would be Namco's answer to Fantasy Zone, Ordine.
Yes.
Ooh, very good one.
Heck yes.
Mm-hmm. That I first played on the TurboGrafx when it came out, and I liked it, but at the same time... It was like, okay, this is like a straight side-scrolling shooter, but it acts like Fantasy Zone with the whole shop thing and the limited weapons and all that. I'm not sure if I'm feeling this, but...
No, I can get that.
After a while, it definitely grew on me. And then playing the actual arcade version for the first time on, I think it was, Namco Museum Volume 4 on the PlayStation?
It was 4, yes.
Yep. Yeah, it was 4.
So and that was just, it's like, okay, yeah, I can dig this game. So... out of curiosity, Kate, have you ever played Ordine?
I don't think I've even heard of it, but it's like I've only seen it on the list that we looked at, but I don't know anything about it.
Well, if you like Fantasy Zone at all, you should give it a shot. Either version's worth playing, the arcade or the turbo version. All right.
That's cool.
So then, Mike, what do you have to say about Ordine?
It's a good game. It would have been my favorite on the rather eclectic choices for Volume 4 if Genpei Tomaden also wasn't on there. I'm a fucking weirdo who fell even more in love with that one. But Ordine is nonetheless quite a cool, really gorgeous graphics for 1988 for a shmup, I gotta say. Like, it really feels like something that was more from the early 90s, but it has all these weird rotational effects, and it's quite colorful as well. All the different weapons you get do also make you feel quite powerful, and there's some pretty neat bosses. The best touch of which with the bosses is that after you whomp them, your characters, I know they have names, but I forget what they are, like Dr. Faraday and his servant, or
Sunday.
Sunday,
Yeah, Sunday.
but after you beat a boss, the two player characters are like cheering with a chibi version of the boss, which it's like the first boss is like just kind of like a straight up battleship that doesn't fully fit on the screen, but you destroy it and then like hey, on the round clear screen it's suddenly got an eyeball and it's cheering along with you, and that's just a really cool touch all around. It's I must say, though, for as charming as this game looks on the outside, it has some pretty sharp teeth. It's really fucking tough. At least I thought it was. I'm not sure if I've ever actually beaten the final boss, because the last stage is really, really vexing, as I recall. I'm honestly not sure if I have. I should give it a more earnest try again at some point, but many shoot-'em-ups around this time were very tough, and I still find the game a little bit easier than Dragon Spirit. Another one, on that one I absolutely got to the final stage and gave up, but yeah, no, Ordine's cool, real underrated. It was a definite deep cut for Namco to reach into, which I believe they had several of those for the latter installments of their PlayStation Namco Museum series, so yeah, no, that one's definitely worth checking out, if and I do say so. If you are a shmup fan, cute or no, it is very much worth playing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And also, just before we get to Kyle Special, something to mention about that game is that very perky, happy shopkeeping girl.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And as you... Oh, sorry.
She just always says things to you in Japanese, so I have no idea what she's actually saying.
Yeah.
But...
And as of the time of the late 80s, being a late 80s Namco game, pretty impressive vocal effects. Like, she actually speaks to you in Japanese, and, like, the voiceover sound of it's pretty good for an arcade game.
Mm-hmm.
Completely, yes. Again, Namco's games in the late 80s were very surprisingly advanced.
Yeah.
And of course, in the 90s, early to mid 90s, we got the Outfoxies, which mostly isn't a cute game, but I just wanted to mention that one because I love it. That's irrelevant. Continue.
Solid game.
Love it so much, yes.
So yeah, Kyle.
Better than Smash. No, just...
Dang it, Mike, you're about to get something for the soundboard. I don't know what, but...
Yeah! We only have 6 options for now. Maybe we should pay to expand it. I don't know.
We should always do that. Anyway, though, Kyle,
why not?
Your thoughts on Order?
Right, well, yeah, I also really love this game. So the way I discovered it, unlike Dyer, who discovered it through the PC Engine TurboGrafx port, which is I will say, if any of y'all out there in chat know of the TurboGrafx and a lot of our love, Dyer's love, my love, Mike's love, and I'm sure even Kate, a lot of our hosts, we all love TurboGrafx. As you probably might know, the TurboGrafx port's a pretty good port. Namco very much, I feel like they very much really appreciated NEC, because a lot of pretty good ports of Namco arcade games were on the Turbo, and they were pretty good ports too. But anyways, that's another discussion. But anyways, Ordyne, I love this game. I discovered it also through the Namco Museum Volume 4 game on PlayStation. I have the biggest soft spot softest spot in the world for the Namco Museum games on PlayStation. I love them. I think they're beautiful. I think they're wonderful recreations. I think they're very original too for just being arcade game collections. I love the quality that Namco put into them with the 3D museums. Wish
definitely.
more and more companies put that. Yeah, I wish more and more companies put that much effort into their own collections. Like, hey, Capcom, why the hell have you never done a 3D museum collection for your old games? Or Konami, or Jollyco, or Irem, or, any of these other companies. Like, how come y'all haven't done stuff like this? Like, Namco doesn't have it, like, copywritten. You can do it too. Come on, put some effort into it. But yeah, I love the Namco Museum franchise on the PlayStation. And I love the collection of games on each of those volumes. And 4 had some really, really cool, obscure games, and I loved all of them. And yeah, Ordyne really hit home for me. I thought it was a very charming little shmup, very cutesy, not too overly cutesy, but just like it had some little moments of just like, oh, that's so charming, or oh, that's so cute. And yeah, I'm also gonna bring up whenever you beat a boss in the game, I love the fact that the little victory screen is just. How do we make this cute? Gee, boss, I don't know. Put some googly eyes on the boss. Okay, sure. Types in like googly eyes on the computer. Like, put googly eyes on boss. Okay, good. What else do we do to make it cute? I don't know, make the main characters small and chibi sized. Okay, make characters small and chibi sized. Alright, done. Alright, now let's move on to level 2. Okay, and like, I just love that like every single victory screen in this game has a little chibi version of the boss, and they have like little googly eyes on the boss, because it's just like, how do we make it cute? Googly eyes. That's how you make stuff cute, googly eyes. I think Namco was really onto something with that. Ordyne is a lot of fun. It's still pretty tough for being so cutesy. It's a fun game, a good 2-player co-op game. And luckily, that also made it to the home port. You can still play 2-player on the PC Engine TurboGrafx port. So, whatever way you decide to play this, on arcade or TurboGrafx, you can have 2 players, and you can have a nice little ball. And I also want to, along with bringing up the cuteness of Ordyne, just the cute chibis, the googly-eyed bosses, and of course the shop girl who, once again in the arcade version, speaks pretty clear and loud, coherent Japanese. Once again, Namco in the late 80s, they were really pushing graphic boundaries and just audio stuff. Like, I know for a previous roundtable for Splatterhouse, that was another late 80s Namco game with some pretty impressive audio and visual effects. Just Namco really pushing it to the edge. Really impressive stuff. I feel like with the late 80s, Namco was just like, okay, we got some better graphics processors for a game, so let's really try to outdo ourselves. Let's use some pretty vibrant colors. Let's put in, some little bits of voice acting in our games. Let's really try something. And I think they did with Ordyne. So yeah, Ordyne is it's so charming. It's a lovely little game. I also want to give a shout out, one last shout out for Ordyne to its soundtrack, composed by one of my favorite video game composers, Shinji Hosoe. He did a couple of Namco games in his time there. He's also done stuff for Atlas. He's done stuff for the very underrated game dev studio Arika.
EX Plus Alpha, you better believe it.
Oh yeah, and I know with Arika, that's a whole other like roundtable of stuff they did. Like they did the Street Fighter EX games. They did those. I believe the series is called Endless Ocean or Endless Blue. I think it's this diving series of video
On the
games.
Wii?
Yeah, I think so. They've done a couple of different games in that diving series, but yeah, Arika has done a lot of really good games,
Didn't
and
they also do
Shinji
Technic Beat?
Hosoe has done. I think they did. I will have to double check that, but yeah, Shinji Hosoe has done so many just really great video game soundtracks. The guy has such energy to his music, and he really brought that energy with Ordine. The music's very energetic, very bouncy, very just like it's something you might have heard, not might have, like you didn't, but like it's something you probably could have heard in like an 80s Saturday morning cartoon. Like just like picture it like you're in your pajamas, with your bowl of cereal and you're watching your Saturday morning cartoons, and like that music just sounds like something from an 80s American Saturday morning cartoon, and it has that energy, and I really love that. So yeah, Ordine is it's so charming. Please go check it out. It's another very cute game.
Yes. And hey, Mike.
Absolutely. Although I do have to ask the question though. What's an Ordine anyway?
I have no clue.
It's a duck.
So
apparently.
cute. Whack whack.
Mike, it was requested I
Someone
give you the
cue
duck.
the ducks.
You got the duck. I mean, it could be.
Why? Thank you.
It could be worse. I could do this.
Oh no! Hip-hop air horn.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to your custom gong sound effect, but I guess there's also that.
Yeah, I still have it kicking around. Yeah, that's one thing we didn't have when we did the first round table was the soundboard.
Right. Yes. I love the
So-
soundboard. It's fantastic. Aw, you're too nice. Oh, shucks. Oh,
Alright.
shucks.
All right. So, from here, okay. We had a lot of Taito games to talk about we missed last time. And they're not all connected, although some of them are. So why don't we just start off with what I think is the most famous out of the bunch, Bubble Bobble.
Yes, I am here. I am here for the Taito games. I am so much here for them.
Well, it's a good thing you are then, because that's what we're talking about.
Wonderful.
So, I'm pretty sure everyone here has played the original Bubble Bobble at least once.
Oh yeah, I have.
I actually don't think I've played Bubble Bobble.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Oh, Kate, you're missing out. It's so cute.
I know everyone says Bubble Bobble is great and wonderful. It's just a game that I never got around to. I've only played Bust a Move.
I hope you do get around to it, because it's a lot of fun. It's a nice, just solid little arcade game.
I hear it's best in co-op, so
Yes.
I'd like to
Yeah,
play it with someone, but I don't usually have friends to play games with.
You kind of do need the co-op to get the best ending.
Oh,
Yeah.
Great Way North is here. How you doing, GWN?
Hello.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And
Howdy.
it's one of the most adorable games about trapping monsters in bubbles and murdering them so they turn into fruit.
Yes.
Yep.
That's metal.
And also cocktails, various cocktail drinks,
Oh yeah, definitely.
which is kind of suspect because it's like you turn them into fruits and cocktail drinks, but it's like this is like a video game for kids. Why are they turning them into little martini glasses? Like, is that appropriate?
Mike,
Is it just juiced in that?
It's just juice.
Yeah, is it just juice in those martini glasses?
you know, I kind of have thoughts about that because, Mike, do you recall what the name of the final boss is?
Oh yeah, of course. The big bad is a large wizardy-looking fellow by the name of Super Drunk.
Yeah.
For some reason, I have no fucking idea how that came about. I don't even know if it's a translation error or. Well, you know what? I need to look this up. Carry on. I have to research this anomaly, so to speak.
Well, they did a lot of games in that series. Some were console exclusive, some were not, like the arcade games you had. Bubble Bobble, there was Rainbow Islands, which was subtitled the story of Bubble Bobble 2. There was Bubble Symphony. There was...
I think I actually tried Rainbow Island for a bit. It was neat.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different from Bubble Bobble, but it still had the same kind of feel.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, Bubble Symphony was like just a super jazzed up version of the original in a lot of
Yep.
cases. Bubble,
Well,
Mike.
as it turns out, the drunks, which are also normal enemies in addition to Super Drunk being the boss of them, yeah, they do actually throw whiskey bottles at you. So,
Oh God.
like they carry these superfluous staves. They look like sorcerers or whatever, but no, they really are just drunks. And yeah, no, that's a little bit of a weird incongruity with how normally cute the game otherwise looks, but it is pretty funny, I must say.
And Brandon just brought up a good point, actually. Rainbow Islands did actually run into some legal trouble for using Somewhere Over the Rainbow for the main theme song.
Yeah, I don't know who holds the rights to L. Frank Baum's works at the moment, but yeah, no, that's kind of an
Well,
understandable uh-oh there.
here's the thing, though. That song was not written by L. Frank Baum. That
You
was,
know what? Right, no, the studio did that, my bad.
yeah, that was MGM. So,
Right, right.
But-
Even worse to deal with,
yeah.
a film company.
So, but let's see what else. There were numerous ports of the original game. I think the Sega Master System one is the best one. Although I have a soft spot for the original NES port that I played. It was the first time I ever played Bubble Bobble. It's kind of hard to say that if you're talking fast, you know. Blah 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 blah. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's not easy to keep up.
Now I don't recall if Parasol Stars, which was the subtitle of the story of Bubble Bobble 3, was an arcade game originally, or if it was exclusive to the PC Engine.
I can never remember that, honestly. You know what? Parasol Stars gives us.
Yes.
It is, yeah, no, it was, apparently released to the PC Engine, Amiga, Atari ST, Game Boy, and there was an NES version. I'm not sure I knew that. But it was never actually an arcade game.
Oh, now it's
And, for some reason, the boss music is a variation of the song Lambada by the French-Brazilian pop group Calma? Is this correct, Wikipedia? I don't know. Can I trust this?
I don't know. I've never heard the original song. I've never heard the boss music. And
I have no
Parasol
idea.
Stars,
Now,
so.
I admit I never played much Rainbow Islands or Parasol Stars. They're not bad games, mind. They just don't quite, in my opinion, capture the relative cone-like simplicity of Bubble Bobble, which is just capture all enemies on the screen and then pop into them. It's run into them, they pop. It's a relatively simple idea, but of course complicated by many factors, the most complicated of which is usually the level geometry itself, which
Yeah.
gets weirder and more esoteric as you go on.
Let's not
I
forget.
remember there's this one really bad one, like midway in, where these enemies which are able to shoot downward projectiles at you, there's like just nothing between you and them at the top of the screen, so you have to try and climb up your own bubbles while they're raining down the fury of the heavens on you, and it is just some massive BS.
And let's not forget what happens when the time runs out either.
Yeah, I don't know what his official name is, but that creepy ghost thing, I think the NES manual called him Baron von Beluga or something like that.
Baron von Blubba, if I remember correctly.
Blubba, yes. No, yes, that's right. Let me check if that's his more official name. Oh, more appropriately, he's known as the Skell Monster, which is appropriate. He is ghastly. Like, he's more of a ghost than a skeleton, but still, it's like he's this sort of creepy... Oh, well, a few depictions do have him looking more skull-like, but... Yeah, no, between this and another Taito game, which I forget if we're actually talking about, I think we are, Taito popularized the concept of creepy marauder who chases you when your time is about to run out, which really does scare the hell out of me, I'm not gonna lie. Gave me the creeps as a kid, whatever the case.
Now, as far as what you were saying about Rainbow Islands and whatnot, I have to give... See, I like Rainbow Islands less than Bubble Bobble, But I
Yeah.
have to give points to the Mega Drive version.
Oh, yeah.
There's a reason for that. Because in one of the modes you can select, the first stage you start off on is Darius Island.
I
Yes.
remember that. Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, then wasn't King Fossil actually the boss of that stage?
Might have been him, or it might have been one of the other ones. I can't recall off the top of my head.
Actually, I need to check this.
But
Rainbow Islands, Darius.
and while you're doing
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, while you're doing that, on a side note, what a lot of people don't remember is that the Bubble Bobble had actually spawned from another game entirely. And it was a game called Chakin' Pop.
Oh,
I remember that.
Yeah, it featured a lot of the same enemies, which I think is primarily what they did for Bubble Bobble. Just took the enemies from the game because the character himself, Czech, I don't think he actually appears except maybe as part of the level geometry at one point, just like an invader does at one point. I think there's some characters that look a bit like Czech in there, but they're not Czech. He himself is an odd character. He's got extendable legs, can hang from the ceiling and walk along it and stuff, and drops bombs. So the thing is, though, even though it's more explosive, Jack and Pop just wasn't as good.
Mhm.
So
It certainly crawled so.
Bubble Bobble could walk.
Bubble could walk. Geez, I had a little bit of a brain fart there. But I don't have much to say about Trek and Pop, but I don't know if we wanted to mention a much more famous spin-off that came from Bubble Bobble, if we do.
In fact, I was about to talk about that one. I
You better believe it.
presume you're talking about Puzzle Bobble.
You better believe it, yes.
Now, Kate, you said you'd played some of the Puzzle Bobble games? Yeah.
Yeah, my primary experience with it is... So I played a bit of the first game, because I remember when I was a kid, my family would go to an ice skating rink, and next to the rink itself, there were machines for the X-Men arcade game and a Neo Geo machine, which had Bust-A-Move as one of the games included in it. That was my first exposure to Bust-A-Move, and I loved it. I thought it was
Nice.
super amazing. And then later on, when my family got an N64, I would go on to play Bust-A-Move 2 on there, as well as... It was Bust-A-Move 3, but the N64 version rebranded it as Bust-A-Move 99 for some reason, but it's just Bust-A-Move 3. So I've played varying degrees of all three of those, and I think they're really fun games. I tend to prefer, like, as far as quote-unquote puzzle games are concerned, ones that involve, like, colorful shapes that you move together are the ones that usually click with me the most. And the way that Puzzle Bobble handles its gameplay, where you shoot a bubble from the bottom of the screen and pop various other groups of bubbles that are the same color by having three or more touch each other. I just find it really fun, and there can be some fun chain reactions depending on which bubbles you pop and where, and I think it's a good time.
On a side note, you said you like, the kind of games you were talking about. Out of curiosity, have you ever heard of a game called Ariguma Rascal for the Super Famicom?
I have no idea
Nope.
what that is.
It's
Nope, not on my head, no.
It's based on a Japanese anime series that ran in the late 70s, which was in
Okay.
turn based on a book written by an American author about when he was a kid in, like, the 40s or whatever, and he had a raccoon. And the raccoon's name was Rascal, and for some reason, the Japanese absolutely loved that. And even though it was like, 10, 15 years after the anime series ended, they actually made a puzzle game out of it for the Super Famicom. And it was by the
Oh, wow.
same company that made the Assault Suit games.
Oh, that's cool.
And it takes a little bit to get used to how it plays, because you basically control Rascal. You have to pick up these jars that are being deposited. Each one has, like, preserves or something in them, and you have to stack them up according to what's in each jar. And you can actually climb over them. Sometimes there'll be little wooden boxes that come out, and I've actually had a lot of fun with it. There's also a 2-player head-to-head mode where you play Rascal and his owner.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, if you want to know more about it, hit me up after the stream.
I may well do that. Thank you for the suggestion.
Oh, no problem. And yes, Greyway North. It is on the Super NES. If you want to know more about it, I can hit you with that too. So, but as far as Bubble Bobble is concerned, Kyle, do you have any additional thoughts on the series?
Sure. I love the whole franchise in general. Chack and Pop, Bubble Bobble. Even though I'm not really good at Chack and Pop, I'm really terrible at it. I do like its weird kind of physics-based gameplay of like trying to place bombs and stuff. I love Bubble Bobble. I love the gameplay of Bubble Bobble. It's so simple and easy to get into. It's so adorable and cute. Like, my mom loved Bubble Bobble. Like a video game where my mom can just hop in and play with me and just like not have to get into a bunch of crap. Like, that's a sign of good game design. But yeah, Bobble Bobble, Bust a Move, Puzzle Bobble, like any of that stuff. Big fan of all of it. I've had so many fond childhood memories of all of these Taito classics. Like, I remember discovering like playing the NES version of Bubble Bobble, and I remember a couple of times in my childhood, like finding a Bubble Bobble arcade cabinet and a Bust a Move arcade cabinet. Like, I remember being on vacation with my family in the Canadian East Coast and finding in the hotel, finding a Bubble Bobble cabinet, like a hallway down the road from, not down the road, but just down the hallway from the swimming pool in the hotel. And I remember my local Dairy Queen had a convenience store right next door to the Dairy Queen, and in that convenience store, one of the arcade games, there were 3 arcade games there. One of the arcade games there was a Neo Geo cabinet, and one of the Neo Geo games in that cabinet was Puzzle Bobble or Bust a Move. And I remember like going there with my mom on Saturdays, and we'd get dinner together. And while she would go order the food and wait for the food, like she'd give me some quarters, and I'd run over to the convenience store and play Bust a Move, and just like I apologize, but I for being long-winded. I apologize, but just I have so many fond memories of all of these Taito classics, and I would definitely call them classics. They're easy to get into, they're fun, they're simple, they're adorable. These are the definitions of just cute games. I love them a whole bunch.
We should probably clarify that the series was originally called Puzzle Bobble, but in North America, for whatever reason, it was rebranded Bust a Move.
Yeah.
I don't know why they changed that, because Puzzle Bobble is a perfectly fine name.
It's cute, and it signals you in that it's the same series. Like, oh, this is the same thing because it has a similar name. Okay.
Funnily enough, there's another game completely unrelated called Bust a Move.
I was
And
going
then when that was released in
ahead.
North America, they had to change the name to Bust a Groove.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. A little bit dumb, but really... It's weird. This is how my dumb brain works. I grew up playing both Bust a Move and Bust a Groove on the PlayStation, and
right?
Both of their inherent 90s-ness is so ingrained to me that I remember that one really fucking terrible cover that one of the Bust a Moves had. I think it was like 2, where there's this like guy in the bubble with toothpicks in his eyes or so. Yeah. No, that was fucking
right. The cover, yeah.
What?
Why would they?
Shit?
Why the hell would they use that awful, like, terrible, disgusting cover? Like, this is supposed to be
The 90s were edgy.
Like,
in a lot of cases,
can I just
the 90s
say that
were
as much
stupid.
as oh God, can I just say that, like, as much as I love like retro stuff and retro video games, I'm so glad that era is somewhat over. Like, I hated that so much. Like, why can't stuff just be cute? Like, no, it can't be cute. That might alienate some people. We need to be ugly and fucking atrocious. Pardon my French. I apologize. But, like, just
angry eyebrows.
why?
Baby.
Oh, come on.
God.
Kyle, no worries. Mike's been swearing up a storm since the stream started.
Yeah, no,
Oh no, we can't have anything cute that might alienate some people. Okay.
Yeah, that's where the whole American Kirby is hardcore notion sprang up from.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot I miss about the 90s, but the quote-unquote play it loud school of advertising is not fucking one of them.
That was
Same.
Nintendo's attempt to compete with Sega.
And it was pathetic and just obnoxious. Like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Now, on a side note,
Uh,
Mike,
yeah. Yes.
do you want something else to say?
Yeah, not too much more. I just think that, yeah, I grew up playing Bubble Bobble a lot on the NES, and I always did really like the game, but I can't say I've ever strapped in for a long, incongruous start-to-finish play of it, because that does take quite a while. And also, lone wolf as I was growing up, I could never get the true ending, which I thought was kind of
Same.
bullshit, but it is what it is. I could criticize that, but, I guess it was novel for its time. Honestly, I think the series peaked with Bubble Symphony, which, despite Bubble Bobble Part 2 on the NES and Rainbow Islands both existing, I think Bubble Symphony is the real, true Bubble Bobble 2, and it pretty much is the original, but, like, faster, much cooler looking, sounding, more of everything. 4 players at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. Plus, it runs on the Taito F3 system board, which is one of my favorite arcade boards ever. So much great stuff manufactured on that thing.
Oh yeah. Lots of quality games.
Absolutely. And I think I think the series just kind of peaked there, because the one afterwards, Bubble Memories, for some reason that one felt like a little bit of a step back to Symphony. I really don't know why. My memories are murky, but apparently it did bring the player max player allotment back from 4 to 2 for some reason, which is absolutely an aggression. And then after that, the series just kind of marched on in various other forms, but they never really quite reached the height that, like, Symphony or Puzzle Bobble 2 did. So, I did like Puzzle Bobble quite a bit too. Wasn't too bad at it. Of course, it would get some very bullshit stages later, but the premise was simple but addictive, and it's, I don't say kind of a perfect arcade puzzler. It's just really simple but complex to deal with, and it's charming and fresh and very cool stuff all around. Not sure I have much else to say though.
I want to close out Bubble Bobble on a couple of notes. So, okay, now this involves my sister and my younger brother, who passed away back in 2019. But
I'm sorry.
Well, things happened. But anyway, at the time, it was early 90s Christmas, and we all wanted a brand new Nintendo game for our brand new Nintendos. So, I picked Simon's Quest because, I was very seriously into Castlevania at the time. So, I had the first game, wanted the second one. You can understand that. Now, here's the kicker. Both Ryan and Sharon requested Bubble Bobble and Double Dragon. The thing is, who would you guess would want Double Dragon more? The teenage boy or the about to enter adulthood sister?
That's a good question.
Oh, yeah, feel free to.
I genuinely cannot guess.
Yeah, same.
How about you, Kate?
I'm going to assume that the sister wanted Double Dragon.
You would be correct. Ryan.
Nice.
Ryan wanted Bubble Bobble in the worst way. Sharon wanted Double Dragon. That's what they got.
Nice.
So, yes, Brandon. Yes, she was. And the second thing I wanted to mention regarding Bubble Bobble, my inner 5-year-old just gets a kick out of seeing when you're playing a one-player game in the arcade version, the little the two-player one, imploring someone to put a quarter in, is banging on a start button, and it says, press to P. It's like, press 2P. Okay. And then after you get all the extend bubbles to go ahead and continue or whatever, it actually comes up with nice 2P. I guess it is sometimes, yes, especially when you have a full bladder.
Is that as in the number 2?
Yes, it's actually number 2 and then the letter P.
Okay.
It's like, press 2P, nice 2P.
I thought 2 was supposed to be number 1 instead. No way, I said
Wow.
shit.
Oh my God, Mike!
You flubbed that one, man.
I'm just gonna give myself.
Wow, Mike.
And you know what? Just for that, you're also going to get this.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, bubble.
I couldn't even do a simple waist joke right. God damn.
We are children. We are all children.
This
Number 1, doing number 2.
Yeah, this cute game stream is very ironically getting a little bawdy, but I'll do that. Wow.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So let's move on to a lesser known kind of Bubble Bobble-esque game by Taito. This game would be Liquid Kids. Which
All right, nice.
is a very strange title when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you basically play this, what's he, a hippo or a platypus or something?
I think
Yeah,
it's
I have
that's
no idea what the hell it is.
That's a good question as an animal. Like, I'm not sure what it's like. I didn't, like, when I was, the first time I saw, like, a screenshot of it, I was, like, 11 or 12 years old, and I was like, is that, like, a duck of some kind, or a porpoise? Like, what?
I think its name is Hippopo.
Hippo?
Oh.
Okay, so it's probably a baby hippo, then? Okay.
Hippo, no, I can see that. Yeah, it is a hippopotamus, apparently.
Okay,
very
wow, all right.
round-looking bipedal one, but...
Wikipedia says platypus erroneously called a hippopotamus in the English version.
What?
Oh, okay.
Oh, that doesn't help. God damn it. Well, it's some sort of aquatic, possibly mammal. Let's go with that.
True. True.
I mean, it looks nothing like a hippopotamus.
No, not
That's
in the
true.
slightest.
Not much. Maybe the muzzle, but it's kind of a stretch.
Which is like that brings up the confusion. Like, I'm just so confused by them. Like, it's several types of little baby animals. I can't figure out what it is.
It's cute, whatever it is.
Yes, it is.
And that's a really fun game, just the whole throwing water bubbles everywhere. And
Oh yeah.
yeah. Now, Kate, I think you mentioned you'd played this one.
Yeah.
So,
I actually played it for the first time as preparation for part 1 of our Cute Retro Games Roundtable.
Nice.
I thought it was pretty neat. So it's a game where you throw around water bombs that splash around and knock over various enemies that the water comes into contact with. If you've ever played El Viento, it kind of makes me think of the water spell in that game.
Oh yeah,
And,
that's a good point.
I played the PC Engine version of Liquid Kids specifically. I think it's a fun game, but it's deceptively hard. It's the kind of game where the first world is very easy, but starting as soon as you hit World 2, which has a bunch of bodies of water to swim around in, as well as enemies to fend off alongside them, the difficulty there ramps up significantly. I've only ever made it as far as maybe World 4 or so. And Liquid Kids has a pretty cute aesthetic. There's some fun details here and there, like when you jump into a body of water, your platypus suddenly is floating on a life preserver, keeping you toward the surface of the water. I thought that was charming.
Adorable. Oh my goodness.
Oh, you made it farther than I ever did.
I did a lot of practice.
I guess so. Because I don't think I've ever made it past stage 2. But, it is definitely...
There's some neat stuff in the... Go ahead.
I was just saying, it's a fun game. I do want to get back to it at some point.
Yeah, it's worth giving a try. There's some interesting level themes in the later worlds, like I forget if it's World 3 or World 4, but that has like a mechanical factory sort of appearance, which is a big contrast to the first two worlds.
Yeah, that would be. Didn't even know that stage existed. I haven't looked at my long plays either, so.
Okay.
Well, it's good to hear you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'd like to go back and try to beat it at some point. It's just really difficult.
Cool. So, Mike, what do you think of Liquid Kids?
I'm going to take Kate's role here. I hate to admit it, but I really have not played this one very much, if at all. I don't know why. I do really like Taito. It seems like a really cute game. It almost seems like it sort of takes the basic catch of those water bubbles that appeared in Bubble Bobble off screen. It's like you pop those and then like a sluice of water slides the enemy off screen. They decide to kind of make a game, a platform, action platformer out of that premise and, make that your main weapon. It's a pretty novel style of attack, if I do say so, but, no, I never really played this one very much, except for gliding upon the edge of it every now and again, but, hell, I don't think I've even beaten the first level yet. This is one I really need to make more time for, but I don't have much to say as it is. I'm very sorry.
Oh, that's
That
okay.
my role, Mike? Person who doesn't know anything about any of this.
Wow.
That sounded...
Wow, Mike.
God, you're putting words in my
Oh
mouth.
my
I don't mean
gosh.
this.
Mike?
Hey, come on. Don't sound... for fuck's sake.
I'm just kidding.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
That's okay,
Love
Mike.
you, Mike. We
Thank you. That being said, I did find out that the boss who appeared in the Rainbow Islands Darius level was Electric Fan, the C&M.
That's
And then no me. I cannot fucking pronounce that right. God. But that's all I have to say right now. Sorry. Yes, anemone. Yeah.
Good, because I wouldn't want to have to air horn you again.
No, I'm cool.
The enemy of my enemy is my enemy.
Oh God. Oh no.
That was terrible, Kate. I'm
Wow.
sorry.
Kate, that was certainly more than a mouthful.
I'm sorry, Kate. You got the sad horn on that one. All right. So,
Cool.
Kyle, your thoughts on Liquid Kids?
So I'm actually I'm actually going to be on Kate's end on this as well because I've actually played this. I've played both versions, but I'm a bit more familiar with the arcade version. I've played. I haven't beaten the game. I'm gonna be honest on something. I can say right now, haven't beaten the game, but I've played it in bouts a good couple times over MAME. I've played the PC Engine version a couple of times too, but I'm more familiar through MAME than I am on TurboGrafx/PC Engine. But yeah, I think it's a super, super cute game. I think it's a lot of fun. Dyer, I think you actually said this when you were describing, there's a C in there, I can say the C, describing the game earlier. I think the sensation of how you throw your little water bombs is actually really addictive. Like, when you push the button to throw, the sensation of doing that feels so addicting. Like, I think it's I've noticed that certain game companies will have this with their controls, that like doing certain actions feels so addicting and you love doing it. Like, yeah, like Taito really nailed it with the controls in this game. Like, throwing the water bombs feels so like fun and addicting, and it's fun to do. But yeah,
Do not get addicted to water, my friends.
I know that's a dangerous,
Nice
dangerous
reference.
road.
Nice
It's a very
reference.
Yes, it's a very dangerous road. Do not get addicted to that. But Liquid Kids is just super adorable. Like, the character designs are just so cuddly and cute. I really feel like Taito kind of, I don't know. I feel like they were like, I'm not gonna say like they were the greatest gaming company, but like they were pretty damn good at doing cute stuff. Like Konami and Taito, like both of them. Namco was usually pretty good at cute stuff, but Konami and Taito both just like really nailed that cute market. And Taito just like this game, Bubble Bobble, Kiki Kai Kai, like just it just so many different games had so much cute stuff in it, and this game is just one of the many of like just games with so much cute stuff in it. This is a very charming game, and I hope people try it out. It's a lot of fun.
Makes me wonder why they never marketed Hippopo plushes.
Yeah, they actually did release little plushies, but unfortunately they were only in Japan, and I believe they were like little crane game prizes, which is just like, okay, I hate crane games, I suck at them, and that's why I hate them. Like, I am the worst at crane games. I've only won like prizes from crane games like 2 or 3 times in my life, and it's just like, can there just be a way that I could just buy the plushies without having to win them? Like, I'll pay extra. I'll pay extra money, but just give me the plushies. I just want the plushies. I don't want to have to go through the embarrassment of playing a crane game and losing like 50 times in a row.
Kyle, it's okay. We all have at least one mini game in the Yakuza series we're really bad at. Yours
Oh,
is the
God.
UFO captures. Mine is fucking Mahjong.
I'm also not good at the house selling mini game in Yakuza, where you have to sell like the finance game. Like, you have to sell stuff. I'm not good at that.
You
Like,
mean Kiryu's major side story in Zero?
yes.
Yeah.
Speak for
It's
yourself
a
there, Mike.
little bit more
I
of an
can-
upward hill.
I can get through it, but I'm not good at it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm way off the ball here.
Speak for yourself. I've never played a Yakuza game in my life.
Oh, that's so sad. They're so good.
They don't seem like Rob's type of games, I'll cop, but
Yeah, I can
fucking
get
love
that.
the series. I would love to hold a Yakuza / Like a Dragon roundtable, but I might have to host that one myself. So.
I think you would.
I would be down to join if that were ever a thing.
Bingo.
So,
Excellent.
let's move on to another Taito game. One
All right.
that features a similarly cute character, but this one's out for revenge and blood and whatever he can get by shooting it with a bow and arrow. Of course, I'm talking about the star of the New Zealand story, who is a little Kiwi bird,
Oh,
whose
There
name
we
I
go.
can't remember.
Tiki.
Tiki.
Tiki's a Kiwi saving Fifi.
Yes.
Our friend Norm from the fantastic A Question of Character series of videos did a really damn good one on... Dyer, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that channel. I'll have to link you later.
Yeah, you should.
But, I will, yes. But, go ahead.
But yeah, this like takes the whole elements of Bubble Bobble and whatnot, and just kind of incorporates more of a maze feeling into it. And the weapons are definitely a lot more lethal. But what's happened is there's this big walrus who's come along and kidnapped all the Kiwis, and Tiki managed to get out of the bag, and now he's now it's personal. So, and you get all sorts of weaponry in this game. And you get laser guns and bombs, and you can fly on things. You have to navigate some of the mazes. And each one ends with you rescuing another Kiwi bird. So, it is... I like this one quite a bit, actually. I first played it, much like a lot of these games, with the exception of Bubble Bobble. I played them on the Taito Legends arcade collections for the PlayStation 2 for the first time. Liquid Kids, I think, was on Volume 2, and New Zealand Story was on Volume 1. And on top of that, my not my oldest daughter, but my middle daughter actually really loves the New Zealand Story. So,
nice.
but it's fun, but it can be tough, and some of those bosses too are just, yeah, because this game does have bosses as well. So, Kate, if I recall, you hadn't or had played this one?
I am aware of the New Zealand Story's existence, but I've never played it myself,
So it's like a Bubble Bobble thing with you.
basically.
Gotcha. Okay, well, another one, just give it a try sometime, if you're able to.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot at some point.
Okay. All right, Mike, let's hear what you think of.
I actually grew up playing quite a bit of New Zealand Story, albeit not under that title. I grew up playing the NES port, which for some reason was renamed into Kiwi Craze. I will admit that is maybe a punchier and less sort of mouthy title than the New Zealand story, so I'm cool with it. But it was, for the most part, a pretty solid port. The graphics actually maybe were a little less colorful, but they translated well enough. And the bouncy main theme and all the music was touched up by one of my favorite musicians ever, the great Tim Fallon, who, for some reason, actually composed for a few of Taito's games on that weird period where they published things for the NES. He also did that for the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade game, the NES, which is bizarre, but that's off topic. So yeah, Kiwi Craze is pretty neat and novel title that looks adorable, plays pretty quickly, emphasizes hijacking enemies who appear out of nowhere and stealing their balloons, and is actually that other game I mentioned earlier where something pursues you if you start to run out of time. In this case, I believe it is a devil-looking character of some sort, which always certainly brings on the pressure. And it is a cute and seemingly neat game that I have never fucking beaten. I tried, but this one gets mercilessly fucking difficult in the final level, and it is just too much for me. Something about the level structure just, like, goes overboard with the spikes, gets... like, really makes you run out of time with the sort of ping-pongy way, almost mazy way that the levels are sort of built. Thing of it is, I don't know how much of this differs compared to the arcade version. I don't know if this is harder or easier than the arcade original, but no, I've never saved Fifi from that goddamn walrus asshole, and it is an eternal shame of mine. I'm not going to say this game's as hard as Cobra Triangle, but it is almost up there, and I don't say this shit lightly.
Well, I will say I disagree with you on one thing.
What's up?
I can't stand the title Kiwi Craze. I like the New Zealand story.
I do too. I mean, how often does New Zealand get shouted out in any fucking video game? Like, this is the only goddamn one I can think of. Hell, you're lucky if Australia even gets represented. It's kind of a blind spot for video games in general. I don't know what's up with that.
Yep, Mike is definitely working blue tonight.
I know I shouldn't be on the cute game stream. I've not had the best day. I'm just kind of venting a lot. I'm sorry.
Oh, that
better.
Yeah, you know, but for what it's worth, you're not really venting. You're just letting your inner sailor come out.
Yeah, no, that's always a pretty loud voice in me. It is what it is. Okay. When I talk about a game being really difficult, for someone like me, who I think is generally okay at video games, especially the action platformer type, if I say something's hard, not give myself too much credit, but I think that holds some weight whenever I say something's hard like that, so.
Oh, it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. All right, Kyle.
I do really like the game, don't get me wrong. I just wish it wasn't so brutal in the latter areas, but oh well. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry.
Yes, Kyle, your thoughts?
No worries. I love this game, too. Once again, another Taito classic. It's super just... Honestly, this may be the cutest game of the Taito cute games. Tiki is just the cutest little birdie, and I love the opening cutscene of the game where it shows all the kiwi birds just hanging out and like doing stuff. If you look very closely at the pile of kiwi birds, though, you may notice that one of the kiwi birds is actually smoking a cigarette, and I'm just like, oh, how naughty! And just I love that opening little cutscene. It's so cute, and yeah,
Naughty
to see the
kiwi.
collection of kiwi birds. And yeah, I love the New Zealand story. I've never beaten it, but it's a lot of fun. It's the gameplay is very addictive. When the way you shoot things is also very addictive. All the weapons you can get, the laser gun, the arrow, the bow and arrow, just everything about it. Like all the weapons, they're very addictive. The New Zealand story is excellent. I love it. I love it to pieces.
Here's a fun fact about this for you. It was released for the Mega Drive in Japan. The Mega Drive version is actually based on an earlier version of the game, which never actually made it out.
Oh,
Weird.
So
Huh.
it looks like New Zealand Story on the surface and plays just like it, and Tiki is there and all that good stuff, but the maze layout and everything is completely different. So
I'll be doodlebugged.
yeah. So it's a fun version to play, just like all the others.
mm-hmm.
So with that, I think it's time we move on to the step-headed red child of the Bubble Bobble-esque games by Taito. And that would be the Don Dokodon games.
Don
Right.
Don.
Mm-hmm.
That's like how the cadence of that rolls, but yeah.
The commercial for this game is so catchy. This cute
Really?
like song that plays between these two girls. Don doku do, doku doku doku. da.
Nice.
Oh god, it's so good. It's so cute.
Basically, in this game, it plays pretty much just like Bubble Bobble, but instead of blowing bubbles and that, you actually have to smash your enemies with a hammer, a big Horkin mallet, as it were.
Yep.
And you play with these two little yard gnome looking dudes. There was a sequel on the Famicom, which was more of a platformer. And as I understand, that one was actually developed by Natsume. But,
It has the Natsume soundtrack, like that style
Ooh.
of music.
yeah, but I don't think it's actually that great. So, which proves
Oh, well.
even a good company like Natsume can have their off days.
Yeah.
But overall, it's not a bad game. It's I've played worse, a lot worse.
Oh, definitely.
But the first one, it's again one of those games I played for the first time and one of the Taito Legends sets, and it's neat. I don't like it as much as I like the other ones, but there it is. So, Kate, this is one you've also never played?
What's the name again?
Don Dokodon.
I have no idea about it at all. I've never played it, never heard of it prior to this.
Yeah, it's pretty obscure. It never made it out of Japan until the Taito Legends sets, so I'm not
I see.
surprised. So, that being the case, how about you, Mike?
Believe it or not, I have played this one. How I played this one and kind of missed Liquid Kids, I have no goddamn idea, but yeah, it's weird, because Bubble Bobble actually spawned a small spate of clones. This was actually kind of an arcade genre for a while that I really don't know what to call them except Bubble Bobble clones. I was thinking something like single screen platformers, where they have basically the same structure. It's like, just like, I guess Buster Brothers by Mitchell was kind of a variation on the formula, but like,
And I love those games. The
I love
Buster
Buster
Brothers
Brothers
games.
Yeah, me too.
Same here.
Same here. I grew up playing them in the arcades, so very
Same.
fun. But
I grew up with the
and-
Super Nintendo port.
oh, excellent.
Yep.
But yeah, Bubble Bobble had other games like it. I think Snow Brothers was kind of the most successful riff off of that. It did things a little bit differently also, but there are also lesser known ones like Funky Jet and Tumble Pop. And it was kind of weird that Taito sort of ripped themselves off with Don Doko Don, which is certainly a more visually and aurally impressive game than Bubble Bobble, but all I really remember about this one is that I sucked terribly at it. Call it a skill issue, if you will, but the difference is that the bubbles you spit in Bubble Bobble have a fair decent amount of range, and you get even more range on them if you collect certain items. The mallet in Don Doko Don has really shitty range in comparison, and I don't know, I just wasn't vibing with it. I couldn't hit the enemy. It's like, the ideal is that you clonk an enemy with it, and then you get to launch the prone enemy into other enemies, which again is a little bit more like how Snow Brothers did it than how Bubble Bobble did it, but I don't know. Even early on, I found myself getting killed by even minor enemies, and right off a skill issue, or maybe I was just having an off day, but Not that Bubble Bobble's the easiest game ever, but I just kind of wasn't vibing with this one. I just found it a little bit too tough for me to call it a particular classic. So it's okay for what it is, but it's no Bubble Bobble or Bubble Symphony for that matter. So
Yeah.
that's just what I think.
How about you, Kyle?
Really enjoyed Don Dokudon. I think it's once again super cute. I have to ask folks, if you can look up the Japanese commercial for Don Dokudon on YouTube. It's so catchy. It's such a cute little commercial. The song's very catchy. But yeah, Don Dokudon is a lot of fun. Really charming game. Once again, Taito at their best. Something that I'm hoping for with the Dyer, with you bringing up all these Taito games, is that you bring up the also very cute Space Invaders Attack of the Lunar Loonies. That's another very cute Taito game, because yeah, Taito just, like I said, they really nailed the market on cute games.
Oh, that particular Space Invader games was like their Parodius.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so
Pretty
adorable.
much, yeah.
But one thing I did want to bring up real quick, since we were discussing all these, we actually left one out in our initial discussions for this roundtable.
Oh,
And
all right.
That was the game, I believe it predated Bubble Bobble, and might come out about the same time as Chack and Pop, or maybe like a year after it. That'd be the Fairyland story.
Nice. Okay.
A very,
Fairyland story.
yeah, very similar to Bubble Bobble. You play a witch named Ptolemy, and what you have to do is use your magic wand to turn enemies into cakes, and then push the cakes on top of other enemies, or just push them where they'll just squish before they change back. But it's got a very similar setup to what they later used with Bubble Bobble and Don Dokudon. Another one that, yes, I again discovered on Taito Legends 2. You know, those two collections are just incredible. And they included so many games on those. And if I remember correctly, that's something that Kurt Kalata had mentioned a couple of times. Basically, IGN gave the second one a review way back when. And it basically consisted of, I have never heard of any of these games. 6 out of 10.
Wow,
Losers. Fuck
bullshit.
Yeah.
you.
Tragedy.
Yeah. There's so many good ones on there, including a lot of really famous ones. I mean, you get Roston's on there. Space
Yeah, no
Invaders,
kidding.
obviously. You get a couple of Darius games. It's just great. Couple of great sets all around.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sixth gen brought attention to a lot of real awesome retro comps, but yeah, Taito Legends was quite good, if not a little bit expected for what it would feature. So lots of
Yeah.
good stuff on there, but Legends 2 was just something phenomenal. It had, let me just look over, so I'm not referring to necessarily cute games now, but it had Metal Black, Arabian Magic, Darius Gaiden, Elevator Action Returns. Fucking love
Nice.
that one.
Oh, that game. That
Leo-
game rules.
Oh yes, Cleopatra Fortune. I'd say that one's actually fairly cute in its own
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Oh,
And
definitely.
Growl,
Oh,
another
yeah.
big favorite.
Yes!
I forget and yes, Dungeon Magic. Oh, I love that one too.
Gotta love Growl, especially if you love animals. That game is just that game was wonderful.
And great music. So yeah, what a phenomenal fucking.
Taito Legends
I would say
2.
Taito Legends 2 might be the greatest retro compilation on the 6th gen. It just, I mean, that might be a bit of a tall order. Maybe that's a bit of a big comparison to Shooter Off right there, but one of the best, absolutely. So.
They also had a game, another very cute game in its own right, that Prime Op once referred to as digital crack. Poochie Carrot.
Really?
Nice.
Oh,
Ooh, nice.
That one is good. Late title game. That one's quite underrated, as I recall.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed
So,
it is.
that is one of those, between that and Cleopatra Fortune, my girls absolutely fell in love with that disc.
Yay.
Nice.
And they love
Wow.
Growl, too, for that matter.
Well, how can you not? Like, you're saving all your animal friends from the horrible poachers.
And
Which,
that's exactly why they liked it.
and folks, you can tell the people who are animal poachers because they are either 1920s newsy newspaper boys, they are women in 80s power business suits, they are dudes with dudes with fezzes, just big chubby dudes with fezzes.
Those would be the John
And they
Rhys
are-
Davies cosplayers from Indiana Jones and the
Yes.
Last Crusade.
Yeah, I think those are actually a boss enemy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Although one of the
yes.
normal enemies did kind of look like some of the thugs from Raiders that were working with the... some of the thugs in Cairo were working with the Nazis, so...
Hey,
but,
my
Yeah,
pet- my nickname for that game was actually Indiana Jones and Clone Poachers from Outer Space.
yeah.
Yes, there you go.
But-
it's apt, especially if you know the twist at the end, but I'm not
Oh,
saying
yes.
anything else.
Yes,
Hint
yes.
involves
Oh,
outer
of course.
space.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm afraid I don't have much to say about I don't think I have anything to say about Fairyland Story. It looks cute enough, but like Liquid Kids, I never really give it much of a play. However, Puchikara I have played a little bit of. It is basically sort of like a more competitive take on Breakout. I think Psycho also released a similar game a few years later called Gun Barrage, but yeah, Pushikarat is simple enough. It's almost like Breakout combined with Puzzle Bobble, and it's put in a versus format. It is... I'm not excellent at Breakout types, so I find it fairly difficult, but it's a simple but addicting enough game. And Patorako, the adorable chibi Cleopatra from Cleopatra Fortune, is actually one of the playable characters in it. I forget if she was like exclusive to the console versions or if she was in there originally, but it's a good touch.
Well, I just love how she cheers you on in Cleopatra Fortune. She'll like spin around, dance, cheer you when you clear a board, that kind of thing. And then
Yeah, and then when you're almost dying, she's like,
no.
yeah,
Very cute.
So
absolutely.
anyway, let's take a bit of a detour before we come back to Taito for a bit. One game I really wanted to cover last time because I wanted to know more about it because I know virtually nothing about it is SD Snatcher.
Ooh.
Kate, I know you recently played through this, so the floor is yours on this one.
Sure. Before the first round table that we did for this, I had never played it, but I figured, since I wanted to at least have something to talk about tonight, I might as well play through SD Snatcher. So I did that about a month or two ago, and I really find it a fascinating experience. So to provide a bit of background, for anyone who's not familiar with Snatcher, Snatcher is a graphical adventure game that was written and designed by Hideo Kojima, originally for the PC-88 in 1988. It's one of his first primarily story-driven experiences that he worked on, although not his first game ever, so to speak. It is a cyberpunk game, heavily inspired, to say the least, by Hollywood movies such as Blade Runner and The Terminator. In fact, Snatcher's basic premise is basically Blade Runner and Terminator mashed together.
Exactly.
It's basically sometime in the 2040s. The exact year depends on the version you play. There's a place in Japan called Neo Kobe City, which is having a problem with humanoid machines called Snatchers. No one knows where the Snatchers come from or who made them. But given their nature of killing and subsequently taking the place of various people in society, they are viewed as a threat to the city. So a special police force known as Junker is formed to deal with the Snatchers terrorizing the city. The game stars a man named Gillian Seed, who has amnesia, yet feels some connection to the Snatchers, and feels that if he dedicates himself to working with Junker to hunt them down, that he can help figure out his past. It's worth noting that Snatcher in its original form was never actually completed. It was envisioned as a 6-act story, but it ended up only having 2 acts when it was released for Japanese computer platforms. The version that most people outside of Japan are familiar with would be the Sega CD version in particular, since that's the only version that officially came out in English. That version actually features an Act 3, however, which helps provide some degree of closure to the overall story. Though I think Act 3 first appeared in Snatcher in the Japan-only PC Engine CD release. The Act 3 was actually adapted in part from story events that first appeared in Snatcher's super deformed spin-off, SD Snatcher. So here's where we get to SD Snatcher.
Yes, I'm very curious
SD
about this.
Snatcher, yeah, for sure. SD Snatcher keeps the same basic premise as the original game. You still play as Gillian Seed, hunting down Snatchers in Neo Kobe City, but there's two key differences between the two. The most obvious difference is the graphical art style, of course, given that everyone in the game is super deformed in an attempt to look more cute and lighthearted. But in addition, SD Snatcher is actually a turn-based RPG rather than an adventure game. I find SD Snatcher fascinating as an overall game. To be honest, I feel a little weird talking about it in this roundtable because I really like the game in spite of its super deformed art. I think SD Snatcher is a really neat experience, both as someone who's played the Sega CD game and as its own standalone game. It takes the basic premise of Snatcher, reimagines it in a fun way, and ends up being surprisingly compelling and interesting to see how SD Snatcher concluded. Or it ends up being surprisingly compelling and engaging, even for people who have played another version of the game. I also find it interesting to see how SD Snatcher concluded the story and to know how story and character elements that first showed up in SD Snatcher would later be repurposed for later versions of the original Snatcher to help tie up its own loose ends. That said, I kinda don't like the art style. I'm not a huge fan of super deformed art in general, but even so, I think some interpretations of it are cuter than others. Like Cid of Valis, for example, I actually do think is a pretty cute looking game, and I like its overall aesthetic. SD Snatcher, however, there's something about the proportions of its super deformed characters that throws me off. I find it really weird how Gillian Seed in particular looks like a toddler, even though he's supposed to be in his 30s. It's very off-putting, and I don't care for it. Due to the nature of SD Snatcher and how you spend a huge chunk of the game fighting robots who are not noticeably super deformed, it can be easy to go hours in game without ever really seeing much super deformed art. Then I forget I'm playing a super deformed game until suddenly a super deformed portrait appears and jump scares me with it. It's kind of funny to think about. And overall, the game itself is actually surprisingly serious in tone. It does have some lighthearted bits here and there, and like maybe one or two gags about the characters being super deformed, but it generally manages to be a surprisingly serious experience, and at times it was genuinely shocking to experience, even having played the original Snatcher. I really do think it's worth giving a try for anyone who likes the original game or doesn't even have like a prior experience with it. It's just a really solid game. It's one of my favorite RPGs.
And this was on the MSX2, right?
Yes, I forgot to mention that. This was an exclusive for the MSX2 computer. I find it interesting that it was on there, since Snatcher was originally for the PC-88, and the MSX2 was the platform that the two Metal Gear games would be on. But it's just where SD Snatcher happened to wind up.
Speaking of Metal Gear, does Jillian's sidekick Metal Gear show up?
Yeah, I played. I think there's multiple different English translation patches. In the one that I played, which is one of the newer ones, the Metal Gear sidekick character was called Petite Metal, which is cute. Like, since the characters are already kind of like chibi and super deformed, Metal Gear itself is even more deformed. So it's Petite Metal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one I had seen it referenced here and there. A few screenshots here, a few screenshots there. Nothing really ever about the story, but just the fact that it actually existed. And I've always had an interest in Snatcher, though, one that doesn't really drive me to play the game because, honestly, games like that really aren't my thing.
Sure.
But I've always been curious as to the story ever since finding out what was up with the original, or at least the the console version of the Snatcher, I should say.
Yeah,
So-
for sure.
So here's a question for you then. You said it was still pretty
Okay.
serious.
Yeah.
Do you still find things like the guy with his head twisted off?
Yes, you do. And it is shown in its super gory, bloody, super deformed glory.
Wow. It's like that would almost
It's
put
amazing.
that sounds like it would put one Paco Graffiti to shame because despite the fact it's Splatterhouse, there's really no blood to speak of.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's actually the most family-friendly Splatterhouse game you can play.
That's funny. There's actually, I find the way the SD Snatcher like switches up things from the original Snatcher interesting. So to elaborate on the guy that we just mentioned, this isn't really a huge spoiler because it's within the first couple hours of Snatcher, but in the original Snatcher, your junker partner,
John Jack Gibson, yeah.
yeah, John Jack Gibson.
He fucking dies really
Yeah.
fucking horribly.
So the game starts out in the original version with you going to a distress call from him on your first day working for Junker, and you find him, but his head has been twisted off his body. But SD Snatcher actually starts with Gibson in Junker HQ with you, and then when the call comes in, you both are working together. So you actually work with him for an extended period of time until eventually the two of you get separated. And then finally, when you find him again, that's when he's been killed and his head is twisted off. But I find the fact that he actually is a character that you can interact with at first in SD Snatcher helps provide a little more characterization for him that was lacking in the original game. So I thought that was interesting to see an alternate take on that event.
Yeah, that's a nice
And
bit of a
SD
turnaround.
Snatcher has all sorts of stuff like that.
If I was into RPGs, I'd probably give this one a shot, but as is, I'm kind of struggling through Final Fantasy 2 or 4, whichever one you prefer.
You've been playing it for the past year, practically.
I took like 2 years off, and then I got back to it.
Yeah,
right.
even more so. But yeah,
I will say that as RPGs go, SD Snatcher I think is a lot of fun, and it helps that the combat system is very unique and interesting, but it is also a very grindy game, so you've got to have a little tolerance for that.
Depends. It really does. If the combat's actually pretty fun for its time, that would definitely help.
I would say... Go ahead.
This is one I have actually been interested in playing, but yeah, I just never got around to it. I would like to, though, since I am really a big fan of Snatcher, having played the Sega CD port ages ago, even with a Konami Justifier to boot for the Super Authentic
That
experience. Yeah,
Nice.
this was back when... I mean, it costs a little bit of a pretty penny, but, this is like back in the early mid-2000s. I can't fucking fathom how much it goddamn costs now.
The way that
And
combat...
I'm gonna look it
Go
up.
ahead.
It's going to depress me.
The way the combat in SD Snatcher works is kind of interesting because you see the enemy robots on screen and you can target different squares on screen that correspond to different parts of the robots that you're fighting. It's kind of like the analogy that I draw is to destroying skyscrapers in the arcade game Rampage, where like as you destroy each square on a skyscraper, you're affecting the building's structural integrity, and when enough squares on the building have been destroyed, then the structural integrity is compromised and the skyscraper collapses. It's kind of the same case with fighting robots in SD Snatcher, where you're taking apart, like, the robots have health bars, but they also have individual hidden bars that affect the durability of each square on their body. And when enough of their structural integrity has been destroyed, then the health bar drops to 0 and they explode. It kind of makes me think of the targeting system and stuff like the classic Fallout games. It's an interesting approach to turn-based combat that I've never really seen something quite the same way in any other RPG.
Well, we all know how Kojima was a bit ahead of his time, so... I will say this.
I think it's a really cool game.
Nice. This is kind of more of a general Snatcher thing, but I have to wonder if the anime series Bubblegum Crisis also played a role in inspiration, because the boomers in that always reminded me of the Snatchers.
I'm not
Vice versa.
familiar with that, so I couldn't say.
Well, I think either way, both of those definitely took inspiration from the Terminator. But if I remember correctly, Bubblegum
without
Crisis.
a doubt.
Yeah, Bubblegum Crisis came out first, though, as far as before the Snatcher games did. It was like a year ahead of the original. So,
I see.
but I have to wonder if there was some kind of a inspiration there. But anyway, I digress. Anyone else have anything they want to say about SD Snatcher at all? Interested? Not interested? Played it?
I've actually not played the SD Snatcher version. I'd like to. Looks a little grindy, but it looks like it could be some fun. I do love Snatcher in general, though. I'm a big fan of the Sega CD port. That's a damn great version. I'm glad that's the version we got, because I know the PlayStation and Saturn version had some censorship in the Japanese side, and I don't know. I'm happy that we got the Sega CD version. That seems like the best version out of any of the versions of Snatcher.
Technically, the Sega CD version has a little bit of censorship in one or two places.
Yeah, but it only censors the actual creepy, gross stuff. Not the gore or anything, but just the
something involving a certain character of a certain age that was
exactly.
That's preferably edited. Yes,
that's what I'm referring to. The actual gross, creepy stuff, not the gore or anything. Where it's that's fine, but yeah, the
so
fucking.
There actually is a little bit of...
Let's hit on the 14-year-old. I'm sorry. Yep. Sorry, Kate. Go
That's the one.
It's actually not related to that. There's a scene in a Snatcher where I think in the TurboGrafx or the PC Engine CD version, there's a shot of a dead dog, and that shot is animated, but in the Sega CD version, the dead dog shot is not animated. So that's one bit of censorship.
All right.
Pretty horrifying. It was very graphic, also. Oof.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I remember seeing pictures of it in magazines, and
wow.
This EGM ran stuff on Snatcher back in the day, and yes, the cute retro games stream is about to get gory. They showed in particular one scene where Jillian discovers a room full of dead bodies, and get a close up on one of their faces.
That's late in the game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I remember seeing that screenshot in the magazines and going, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
And that
really fucking graphic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, with all the maggots and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But
Snatcher rules.
Yep.
Such a cool game, no matter what form. Oh, sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
I almost had it too. On clearance, I didn't have the $5.
Oh, fuck!
No.
Oh.
Yes, and neither did Andre, who was with me at the time.
Mine, man.
Andre was with me. He didn't have the money either. We had to leave it.
Oh no.
Well, if I know then what I know now. But I digress. Anyway. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to some cute stuff.
Nah.
Let's go back to Taito here. It's been brought up in the chat already, but I wanted to go ahead and bring up the Kiki Kai Kai games, aka Pocky and Rocky.
Yes.
Now, I've had a little bit of experience with the games. Haven't really played much in the way of the Super NES games, but I did play the arcade game and the Famicom Disk System game a bit. Obviously, I haven't tried any of the new one they did, which was some kind of a remake, I think.
Oh yeah, Reshrined.
That's the one, yeah. But I found it to be pretty enjoyable, and especially with the Super NES, definitely very cute. I mean, how often do you get to play as a cute little shrine maiden? And I'm presuming that Rocky's supposed to be Tanuki?
Yes.
Just minus the enormous... Well, you know where I'm going
Testicles.
there. Yes, thank you. But yes, Great White North. It was an arcade game originally, and I don't recall if Rocky was a playable character or not, but he might have been.
I don't believe so. It was just the girl.
Actually, I think Rocky was an enemy in the original arcade game, which is crazy to think.
Huh.
I might be wrong, but I thought that was the case.
Now, would you care to guess where I first played the arcade game?
Where?
In Florida?
Taito Legends.
Nice. Okay.
Boy.
All right. Nice.
Those 2 discs were an embarrassment of riches.
No kidding.
Oh hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great compilations. I remember renting them when I was a teenager, and just like, I was already a big fan of like retro game compilations, and I just fell in love with those.
And Mike, you were almost correct. I actually played it in Georgia for the first time.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure it's on Legends 2, not 1. Because if it was 1, I would have played it in Arizona for the first time.
Makes sense.
So, had you ever played any of these games, Kate?
What's the name again?
Well, it's known as Kiki Kai Kai, but for the Super NES, it was called Pocky and Rocky.
I am aware of Pocky and Rocky. I've never played a single one of those games. I've played some other similar action games from them, like I think from the same devs, like Wild Guns and Ninja Warriors, but Pocky and Rocky is something that slipped me by.
Yeah, Natsume and Taito did work well together. I gotta say that.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, in that case, all right, Mike, I'm presuming you have some experience with these games.
Yes, I would say so. I'm not so familiar with the original arcade game, to be honest. It is fun enough from what it is, but it is an overhead shooter of its time, and while it is fun enough, I certainly didn't give it as much attention as I did its Super Nintendo counterpart, the one which we got of the West, of course, as Pocky and Rocky, which took the basic premise, but made it a lot speedier and a lot more vicious, and it is a really damn good run and gun on the SNES. I mean, it is basically like Commando or Mercs, but even faster pace and
Cuter,
with
much cuter.
Much cuter too. But very fast paced and crazy and blitzy, and you either plays the cute Shrine Maiden or the Tanuki, which may have spears down there. But it was part of the licensing deal that Taito had with Natsume that also gave us the Ninja Warriors again on the SNES,
And that's-
which I fucking love.
Yeah,
That's one of my
game.
yes,
that's
it's
one of
so
my
great.
very favorite. That's one of my very favorite beat 'em ups of all time. I love that game so much. The Ninja Warriors again.
We need to
I
do
want to
it.
say it's my favorite ever in the SNES, but now that there is, of course, the new version, also Ninja Saviors or Ninja Warriors, once again, whatever you want to call it, whatever ridiculous title. The SNES version maybe does feel a little outmoded, but no matter what version you play, it's just still really goddamn good. But yeah, Pocky and Rocky is crazy. It looks adorable, but it gets pretty vicious at the gate. The projectiles you fling out are very quick, but enemies are also just popping into the screen at a fairly fast rate. It launches up on a almost perfectly formed curve. Each new level is harder than the last, and it's got some pretty tough boss fights. Even the first boss fight, which I think in the West was called a giant cannibal? No. I think I have the wrong boss in mind. But it is this weird, like, giant spherical yokai thingy who does look pretty cute with his almost Goomba-like face. But he's no pushover for a final boss. He spits out what seem to be like nuts from a bowl, like a machine gun, and he rolls around with his large oval head as well. And future bosses just get tougher as well. It's I remember the final one known as. Wait, is he actually called Black Manta? That's not a nod to the NES game with the same name, is it?
Could be an DC comic character for all I know.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. But yeah, I remember the final boss being a real crusher of a bastard. It has been a while since I played Pocky and Rocky, but It is very challenging, but if you do like run and guns, I highly recommend it. I also do recommend its sequel, which is a little bit more esoteric. Like, it adds some more things on top, like more different playable characters and shops and diverging paths, but it also does feel like what it adds does overcomplicate the formula of the first game a little bit, and it doesn't feel like it's quite as briskly paced. But I did like Pocky and Rocky 2 quite a bit nonetheless, and I think, hey, if you like the first one, shit, give the second one a try too. Why not?
There you go. How about you, Kyle?
Love the Kiki Kai Kai Pocky and Rocky series. I first discovered it through the Super Nintendo versions. I remember renting it a lot as a little kid. I prefer the first Pocky and Rocky over the second game when it comes to the Super Nintendo games, but
Yeah.
I still think they're damn good. Really fun little run and gunner shooter games. I think they're really charming. They have a nice difficulty curve to them. You just keep on playing, keep on trying, and you'll get better. I think they're just all sorts of adorable. I believe this is one of the games where I remember when growing up, my mom, whenever I'd rent games, sometimes she would like try to pick out a game for me, and she'd try to find something that looked cute. And sometimes that didn't work out so well, but sometimes it actually did work out very well. And Pocky and Rocky was one of the games that was like, oh, this is cute. I'll get this. Here, you try that. You should get this game. It looks really cute. And I was like, okay. And this was one of those games, and I remember just falling in love with it. Fun fact: that same mentality that my mom would use of like, oh, this looks cute. You should get it. One of those games was actually the Bomberman franchise. She thought that the Bomberman characters looked really cute, and she was like, "Oh, you should get this Bomberman." And I'm like, "Okay," and I did, and I fell in love with it. Yeah. Pocky and Rocky is excellent. Just great series. The arcade game itself, the original arcade game, is good too. But yeah, the series itself is just excellent. Lots of good games. But yeah, I love them a lot.
This is kind of making me really want to give the Super NES games an actual go.
You should.
Yeah, I've just kind of screwed around with them in the past, nothing major. So
you should really give them a shot. They're good games.
Maybe I will. And on the subject of the Ninja Warriors, I'm thinking, you know what game series also deserves a stream?
What?
The Ninja Warriors.
Yes.
Yep, sounds good.
Hey, there's
only like
Ninja Warriors.
2.5 games to cover there, but
Yeah.
I love the series nonetheless, so sure.
Same.
that would give us time to dissect all the ports and do all sorts of neat things.
Heck yeah.
So, but keeping in with the cute theme here, let's go to another game that involves a Shrine Maiden. This is one of my favorite shooters. It's definitely up in the top 20, but I wanted to bring up Gun Knack.
Hey,
Nice.
good choice.
Now, okay, we all know that Parodius is to Gradius, it's the parody version. And just like how there are other parody games, I'm positive that Gun Knack was intended to be the Parodius of Xanac.
Yeah, pretty much. It is compile as all hell, but a little bit lighter hearted than normal. Nah, go ahead. I'm talking too soon.
Well, I think they actually went and cut most of the stuff about the Shrine Maiden out of the US version. So there's still some cutscenes in the US one, but anything involving the Shrine Maiden, I'm pretty sure was cut. But she's the pilot of the fighter in that.
Oh, that makes sense.
And it's like the first thing you do is you're fighting over the moon, and the moon is full of rabbits, which is a Japanese legend, which is even referenced in Parodius at one point. So, and I think the last boss of the first stage is a giant rabbit mech. And you've got flying carrots and all sorts of stuff. And it just gets wackier from there. But it plays great. It's probably one of the best shooters I could recommend for the NES or Famicom. And I love it. Kay, did you ever play this one before?
No, I actually didn't even know it was a Super Deformed game until I saw it on the list.
Yep.
Like, I'd heard the name Gun Knack, but I just assumed it was just a shmup.
No, it's definitely a very good one. So, yeah, worth giving a shot if you like the Alesta games.
I've also never played Aleste, but I'll keep that in mind.
Even Musha.
Nope, I've never played that.
Blazing Laser, Space Megaforce, either of those?
So, those are not really a thing that I've played or gotten too into. My expertise is more with run and gun shooters.
Ah.
Oh.
Well, I'll tell you though, any of the games we just mentioned are worth trying out at least.
Okay, cool.
If you like what you play, you could also check out Spriggan for the or Serious Sensei Spriggan for the PC Engine CD.
Great game, yeah.
If you want to have a game that's not quite as good as the ones we mentioned, but is still okay, there's Robo Alesta or Den and Alesta for the Sega CD.
If you want to have another great 8-bit one, Power Strike 2 on the Sega Master System.
And for that matter, Power Strike, aka Alesta.
The first one is good, second one even better, in
Yes.
my humble opinion. But they're both worth playing, yeah.
And the Game Gear ones are surprisingly great too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the LSA collection was, the SMS and the GG ones, so...
Yeah. So, all right then. Mike?
Good stuff.
Yeah, I know you're raring a bit to talk about Gundak, so...
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you know, it is just straight up compiles Parodius, more so based on Xanac, hence the knack in the title. Gunnak is kind of a weird title, I will cop, but you know, it works. It is, I think, a little bit more. She's a little bit more restraint than how completely wacky other parody shoot-em-ups go, like the Parodius series, or Space Invaders 95, or Attack of the Lunar Loonies. Or, that's the same game, you idiot. I meant to say, or Star Parodier. It does kind of mind P's and Q's more. I think there are some screenshots where if you caught it, it could say, this one does look like a more legitimate shmup. But then you get to the first boss, which is, of course, a rabbit on the moon, because there's that Japanese legend of a robotic, kind of creepy-looking rabbit boss as well. And yeah, there are... It's a more subtle take on a parody shoot-'em-up, but there are some pretty neat and crazy things, like gigantic candles, and the mascot, the Blue Lander, pops up, and an orange version of him as power-ups that you can get. And yeah, there's just like Hanawa doll as a boss. Oh hey, Maneki Neko shows up as a boss also. We mentioned that earlier in Goemon. It is a really cool and progressively challenging game. I think it mostly minds itself more than Xanac does, but it does get pretty tricky in the last couple stages. I remember the final boss being kind of a blitzer to deal with, but yeah, cool thing about this game is that, like Ordyne, it has a perky shopkeep. She almost has a little bit of a creepy stare, or she's just very enthusiastic, or she's possibly on drugs, I don't know, but nonetheless, you are able to purchase more weapons if you don't get them out in the open, and you can also get bombs. That's something that wasn't in the original Xanac, but as I recall, but later compile shoot-em-ups did give you bombs to clear the screen, although in this one you get like fire bombs that serve more traditional, like thunder bombs, which shoot out lasers to the side, and water bombs, which actually rain down death from above. And also, you know, the weapons you get are cool, like these homing crescents or outright flamethrowers, gigantic balls which shoot small shots as they fly out. It is, as in any of Compile's shmups, a very solid arsenal, and, you know, parody elements or not, which, as I said, are a little lighter than in other parody shoot-'em-ups, this is just a really, really damn good shoot-'em-up. I would say it's absolutely a top fiver on the NES. It's up there with the likes of Over Horizon and Life Force and, I don't even know what else. Well, Gradius 2 also, but yeah, of course, Doi. Maybe the best overhead shooter out of all of them, because those other ones are... Oh, no, wait. Crisis Force exists too. Oh, it is hard to beat Konami, but Compile absolutely at least matches them, I'd say. So, yeah, go play Gunnak if you just want a really good shmup. That's all I can say.
I can agree with that completely. In fact, I have. So,
It's good.
Kyle, any thoughts on Gunnak?
I love Gunnak. I think the game is awesome. Like, it's just a really easy to play, easy to understand shmup. The graphics are really good. The soundtrack's catchy. Compile made some fantastic shmups. Just hit them out of the park. A total home run. But yeah, my words on this are just short and sweet. I love Gunnak. Compile really nailed them. Really nailed the genre.
That they did, and they did it very well.
Actually, those 5 shoot 'em ups I mentioned are probably the top 5. I will give an honorable mention to Rekka, which is very technically impressive, but I think it's way too goddamn difficult to normally enjoy. The other 5 you mentioned definitely mind their P's and Q's more, but yeah, no, Gunnak's definitely up there, quote-unquote parody or not.
Yes. And as we've, especially me and Mike, have stated numerous times, go play it if you haven't. Now,
Hell yeah.
we're kind of getting into games that we didn't have planned to talk about. Brandon just asked what that drumming sound was. Did anyone else hear a drumming sound?
What drumming
I
sound?
don't hear anything.
No. I couldn't tell you. But there is one game in particular I wanted to bring up, but I forgot to include in our notes before we started the stream. And that would be the game, it's by Tecmo. And it's called Kyoto Ninden Tiandi, otherwise known as Samurai Pizza Cats.
Oh.
And as
Yes.
someone mentioned once, baby's first Ninja Gaiden. I think
I can guess who said that.
Okay, what's your guess?
Mike.
I don't know. Was it you, Mike? I remember seeing it somewhere, but I don't recall if it was actually one of us here that said it.
Said what now?
Samurai Pizza Cats is basically baby's first Ninja Gaiden.
That was not me. I'm afraid I actually haven't
really?
played this game, so I don't really have much to say about it.
Oh, you've never played it? You gotta rectify that.
To
I
be
stand
honest,
corrected.
I know extremely little of the Samurai Pizza Cats franchise as a whole.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, anime's just not my bag. All anime, except 0.01% of it, so... It looks like a cute series, I just haven't gotten into it at all, I'm sorry.
Alright.
You know, in all honesty, I'd recommend checking out the American Samurai Pizza Cats, because there was apparently some problem with the scripts or something. They got the episodes, but they didn't get the translation, so they basically wrote their own scripts, and they're just bonkers.
Well, as long as the results didn't end up like ghost stories, that might be fun to check out.
Oh, no, it's a very, very funny series. And the game is actually really well. I mean, it's Tecmo. It controls great. You have a large selection of characters to pick from. You have the 3 main Pizza Cats, one of which you pick as your character is going to be throughout each level. Plus, you have, I think, 6 helper cats as well. And all of them featured in the series. You get to see all the major characters from the series, including the one that my daughters liked, who was like a little... hard to say. She was a girl who was kind of like a robotic ram in a way, and every time she burst into tears, these compartments on her head would open up, all these Macross missiles would fly out. But the game's very solid, very playable, and not very hard either. Like I said, it's got that whole baby's first Ninja Gaiden thing going on, which you could probably expect for a licensed game based on what's essentially a kids' TV series. So, that said, Kate, you have played this one?
I've never played the game, but I've seen a little bit of the Samurai Pizza Cat's English dub, and I thought it was a fun time. I kind of want to try the game at some point.
Yeah, it's definitely worth playing, and yeah, definitely watch the English dub. It's just bonkers some of the stuff they come up with.
I find it really funny how the closing music that plays at the end of every episode, the lyrics go like, "We hope you like the show. It's the best that we could do. If you can do better, we leave it up to you."
Pretty
Okay, that's
much.
really good. That sounds like something out of Freakazoid. That's pretty good.
And you know, it came out in the same era too. So
Nice.
now, all right, Mike, I know you haven't played the game.
Yeah.
What about you, Kyle?
Played it, and I think it's a really fun game. It's really good, very easygoing. I've also watched the TV show, the anime series. I've seen the English dub. I grew up with it as a little kid. I remember it'd be on every weekday morning, and I'd watch it before preschool, and I'd watch it before kindergarten as well.
So you actually had an experience that I was too old for it at the time. I mean, I knew there was something called Samurai Pizza Cats, but here I am in my 20s and I've got other things to do, basically, you know?
Of course, yeah, of course.
It's like how I primarily knew Pokemon as a series I would occasionally catch an episode of on TV if I was bored and didn't really equate it with the games that much, aside from knowing they were connected. But that was the 90s for me. So, but all in all, fun time. And Great White North, yeah, he agrees too. So, all right, so moving on, we've only got a few left. I'd like to, since we're done with the Taito stuff, but there was one clone that was already mentioned at least once in the stream, which I want to go and bring up, is Snow Brothers by, of all people, Toaplan.
Hey, cool.
Yep.
And it's like the shooter.
Speaking of shmups.
Yeah, the Shooter Kings made a Bubble Bobble kind of game.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was a close race between Toaplan and Compile for the title of Shooter King, I can tell you that. But it's basically Bubble Bobble in the sense that you have these kind of... You're put in one arena, you have to destroy all the enemies in there, except your weapon in this case is snow, which you're basically like a living snowman. What are their names? Jack and Tom or something like that? Or Nick and Tom?
Nick and Tom.
That's
yeah.
right. So, and you can't just throw a snowball at them and they get encased. You have to actually build it up and then roll the snowball to over a cliff or something. So, I've played it on and off here and there. It's fun. I just never really got back to it. So, was this one you ever played, Kate?
I have not.
Well, basically what I just described. If you ever played Bubble Bobble and you like it, you might want to check this one out.
I'll keep it in mind. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, your thoughts on Snow Brothers?
Yeah, it is a neat enough game that, ironically, I think those quote-unquote Bubble Bobble clones I mentioned earlier, I think they actually took more from Snow Brothers and they did Bubble Bobble, because more of them follow the formula of turning the enemy into a projectile rather than shooting a projectile at the enemy first. But it's like, yeah, how all these stages are structured was that they, many of them were made to accommodate you turning the enemies into snowballs, these weird, like, crescent energy waves that you shoot at them, and then you push the snowball and have it appropriately bounce down the stage and collide into all the other enemies. And you could set up a really nice chain reaction if you manage to set it just right. It was enough of a twist on the Bubble Bobble formula that it reached a fair modicum of fame during its time. Although I remember the boss fights being more annoying than innovative, but they were what they were, I suppose. It was definitely more fun to just boot down all the enemies with a few snowballs at once than it was trying to smack some big goon with several of them. Not that I normally advocate against the use of bosses, but I do think they did kind of slow the game down a bit in this case. That's my opinion, though. I can't say like I'm a huge Snow Brothers fan, as it were, but it was neat enough for what it was. And it was popular enough that it got a sequel with some rather disturbing character portraits for some reason. I have no idea why. And it also got a total ripoff by the name of Nightmare in the Dark on the Neo Geo many years later. That one was just basically the same premise, except you're shooting fire instead of ice. I think I actually liked that game a little bit more because of its creepy settings, and I thought it was maybe a little less old school hard as later games get, but Nightmare in the Dark's also pretty cute despite its creepy settings, so also give that one a check out if you like Snow Brothers.
Yeah,
It's a little offhand recommendation.
I haven't played that one myself, so I'll have to look it up.
Oh yeah, I'll show you a video later.
Cool. How about you, Kyle?
Played a little bit of Snow Brothers, and I think it's fun. I will actually agree with Mike about the boss fights. Also, I feel like the Snow Brothers, looking at their character designs, they remind me of mascots for like an ice cream company.
Yeah.
Or like a snow cone company.
I can see that.
Yeah, they do kind of have the ambience about them. That is true, yeah.
I mean, I don't think they're as iconic as the Slush Puppy, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also, in a way, kind of remind me of the Michelin Man. But...
Oh, yeah.
I can see that, yeah.
I could see the bibendum in there, yes.
But, so yeah, that's Snow Brothers basically summed up right there. Alright, now, I don't know about you guys, but I am not a fan of brain-bending puzzle games.
Me neither.
I can take them or leave them. Puzzlers usually aren't my forte either.
Yeah, but there's one series I've made an exception for.
What's
And
that?
that would be The Adventures of Lolo.
Hey, good choice.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Now, Lolo was basically Hal's mascot before they created Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if I remember correctly, that Kirby animated series they did, Lolo and his girlfriend Lala both show up in that regularly.
Oh, neat.
I mean, they started out as a boss in the original Kirby's Dreamland, so that rolls off of that, hence.
Oh, okay. I barely played the original Kirby's Dream Land, so I didn't even know they were in there. But,
Yeah, no, they're the second boss fight.
oh, nice. Nice not
And they just-
they're past.
They push emerald blocks into you.
That tracks completely with the entire Lolo, or Eggerland as it's called in Japan, series. I played the Famicom Disk System games that had come out just a little bit. I played the sequels that they did for the NES 2 and 3. Again, just a little bit. The only one that really ever truly grabbed me was the American NES game, which was like basically Eggerland's greatest hits. Because that version didn't come out in Japan. In fact, I think 2 over here was actually just the Adventures of Lolo in Japan, and 3 was 2. So, more weird naming conventions. But I like Lolo, especially the Adventures of Lolo. It's just, it can definitely hurt your brain at times. No question there. But, it's fun sometimes turning those monsters into eggs and then blasting them away at top speed. And the whole thing is you're basically okay as long as there are still hearts on the screen. Except for a couple enemies, regardless, who are going to shoot at you no matter what. But the minute you get all the hearts on the screen and the treasure chest open up, everything that wasn't previously moving comes to life. Except I think those first enemies, those little snail-looking slug dudes. But everything else just comes to life and does its best to kill you before you can get the jewel. And of course, once you get the jewel, all the enemies disappear, exit comes, and you work your way up a series of floors to get to the Great Devil's throne room and defeat him so you can get Lala back. You'd figure that there might be an actual fight against the Great Devil, but instead it's just a cutscene. He turns him into an egg and blasts him away. But overall, this was a game that my brother had bought, actually, the same day I got Castlevania. And when I finally got done playing Castlevania, I gave Lolo a try, and it's like, this isn't bad. And kind of liked it ever since, enough to own a copy after that. So, Again, Kate, is this one you ever played?
Nope. I know about the series, but it never looked like my thing, so I never bothered with it.
That's understandable. When I first saw the description, I wasn't sure about it either, but then I played it and was like, okay, this is pretty good. But like I said, I don't usually do brain bending puzzle games. So
Yeah.
that being the
Puzzles tend to turn me off in almost any game.
case, they especially hurt me when they're inserted into games where they don't belong. Hello, Castlevania Lords of Shadow. I'm looking directly at you.
That was a totally off the cuff vent like I'd make. Way to go.
I have learned from the best sensei.
Aw, well, isn't that cute?
You've learned a lot more from me than. So now we're
That
even.
is
I
true.
guess.
Yeah, we've been rubbing off on each other too long. Wait, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, that don't sound right, Mike.
Oh my god.
Anyway, if I may get the necessary reference out of the way first.
Go for it.
The Adventures of Lolo, you better save the receipt. Sorry,
hail
I had to make a
Homestar.
Homestar. Yeah, no. I genuinely do like the. I generally do like the Adventures of Lolo quite a bit. Normally it's not the type of game that I like, but I think this one has just the right amount of action in it as well, because you do need to have some quick reaction in order to survive some of the monsters. While they don't all come to life after you collect all the heart frames, the vast majority of them do. Most notably, the gulls, which are these pink lizardy guys that become like flame-spewing turrets when they're awakened. The skulls, which mercilessly pursue you once you have everything.
I hate those things.
The real MVP... Yeah, they're bad, but in my opinion, the real asshole MVPs are the fucking Medusas.
Oh, yes.
Those creepy gray statues, which instantly kill you if you step in front of them, unless you have a solid thing blocking your line of sight.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Not to mention the rarer but even worse Dawn Medusas, which do the same, but they actually move in a line as well, so you gotta, like, it's almost like playing a stealth game, which normally I don't like that either, but I don't know, something about Lolo and the NES just cuts the right amount of challenge and intrigue that, while it can get tough, for the most part, it doesn't really feel like it goes into bullshit I need a guide territory. And for having a staggering 50 levels to it, I think that actually is kind of amazing. At least I don't remember ever having to look one up. Maybe I did at some point, but I think most of them are fairly intuitive if you think enough. Like the factor in some of the stages that you have to wonder what's the last heart frame you should grab, what will cause the least chaos, when and where you grab it, so to speak. But, there's a lot of strategy series stage, lots of nice level layouts, and it certainly does have a challenge curve. It does get harder as you go along, but for the most part, I think it actually minds its P's and Q's, and unlike other brain teaserly types of this, I do think it is, for the most part, manageable if you work hard enough at it. I cannot say the same for its sequels, because I tried to beat Lolo 2, but I got extremely frustrated at a puzzle that had a lot of water in it. Something about the egg floating on the water physics was just not gelling with me there. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then I quit at that point. It was fairly late into the game, too. I guess Lolo 2 is like more of the same, but they felt like they had to necessarily up the challenge just by nature, and it did kind of push into, I do need a guide territory, and that kind of turned me off. I haven't even touched Lolo 3 yet. I know it does like a bit more structurally to distinguish itself from the first two, and I know it has actual genuine boss fights in it, surprisingly. You do actually get to have it out with the king this time, if I'm not mistaken.
Good.
It took fucking long enough, but I don't know how hard Lolo 3 is, because I never played it, because I never beat Lolo 2, because I got frustrated with it. Maybe I'll swallow my pride and give it another crack Although, except the fact that I may need a guide every now and again, which really grinds my gears. It's like, why did I quote-unquote pay money for this? Although I didn't, wink. But why am I even playing this if I have to go spoil the solution, which is kind of what I feel whenever I have to look up anything in an FAQ. I know that's stupid, but I don't know. Anyone else feel that way about puzzlers?
No.
I kind of relate.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I think in Lolo 3 you can actually choose to play as Lolo or Lala for the first time.
Yeah, you can. You can play as Lala. That's really cool.
Yeah. About time.
Yeah, 3 seems a lot more advanced than just doing what 2 did and be the first but harder, but again, I don't know if it's also a lot tougher to actually play, so it's really one I should have at least given a crack at some point, I admit, but
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
You got time.
Yeah.
So, how about you, Kyle? Your thoughts on Lolo?
Actually have some fond memories of playing the first Lolo game on NES. My brother worked at a video game store, and one of his jobs was to clean out NES games and like open them up and clean them out and everything and test them. So he'd bring home a bunch of NES games home, and I'd get to test them out with him. And one of the games that we played quite a bit of was the Adventures of Lolo 1, and it was really nice. I like them. I'm not really good at puzzle games. I'm pretty terrible at them, to be honest, but I have a lot of fondness for the Lolo games.
Nice. Well, you know, the only game I can think of that's come close to Lolo for me, and I think you really had a good point there, Mike, as far as there's a little more of an action slant to it, so that might be what draws it to me more.
Righto.
But the only one I could think of that actually comes close in that regard would be the Famicom exclusive by Konami, Moai-kun.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's like a side-scrolling Lolo in a way.
You know what? I hate to admit it up front, this is not one I have played very much, but what I have played I remember liking.
Yeah, it's actually pretty fun. It does get frustrating and brain-bending at times, but it's one of those games where it's like you actually play a sentient Moai statue, and you're trying to rescue all these little pink Moais from all sorts of other walking statues. And it's kind of bizarre and adorable at the same time. But if you like Lolo, I strongly recommend that game. So, Moai-kun for the Famicom. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense. The only other time you've ever get to play as a Moai head was actually in Konami YY World, bringing things full circle. There it was more realistically proportioned, although it looked ridiculous as a waddling head, a realistically proportioned Easter Island head on tiny stubby legs, which was actually pretty hilarious. Here, you look a lot more decently proportioned, and you are also just a waddling head, but you look a lot cuter and less ridiculous. But you just need to headbutt your way around enemies and blocks to get through the stages and rescue the pink Moais before you get up to the door at the end. Oh, okay, they aren't all pink. The sad-looking Moais. I don't know how better to put them, but you gotta rescue all of them and then get to the door, pretty much, and it plays out like a somewhat less frustrating take on Solomon's Key, which that one I wanted to like more, but that absolutely is in the brain-bending fuck you, I have to look up a guide sort of sector of action puzzlers like these. I mostly say that because this one has a side-scrolling perspective to it, as opposed to Lolo, which was a more overhead Bomberman type scope. But this is one I have not nearly played enough, but I absolutely do like the style of it, and definitely be one I think worth checking out more in the future. So,
out of curiosity, Kate or Kyle, have either of you played Moai-kun?
Nope.
Sorry, Kyle, missed that. What'd you say?
Sorry, I said I have.
Ah.
Oh, cool. What you think?
It's really cute. I've never gotten far in the game though, but it's very cute.
Sounds kind of like where I am, because I think I've maybe cleared the first couple of worlds, and that's about it. I have no idea how many there are. But it was definitely one of those kind of out of left field moments for Konami. I mean, I certainly didn't expect it when I started getting into Famicom stuff. And all of a sudden I see this game with this cute little Moai on the cover, and it's like, what is this? Is this related to Gradius? Huh.
Well, kind of, sort of, maybe-ish.
Yeah, in the way that the little Moai treasure you find in the second loop of Castlevania is related.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, anyway, want to go ahead and close things out here. So, there's a few things I want to give a shout out to. One would be the Cotton series. That's one I'd love to discuss in more detail at some point, perhaps in a future stream. But, the game, it's cute, but it's not cute enough to be a cute game after thinking about it, as far as part of this roundtable.
I remember it has some pretty creepy-looking bosses in it. Although I do have to admit I haven't actually played the Cotton series nearly as much as I should have at this point. That's something I really need to fix. I can't say my favorite game in the series is the Space Harrier-esque Genesis spin-off Panorama Cotton. That one is really a fucking treat. And also apparently ridiculously rare, too. But,
extremely ridiculously rare. It's even more rare as the teacup that came with it originally.
Whoa, what the hell? That's crazy.
Yeah. I have seen that on eBay, and it's gone for absolutely stupid prices. So, but, Rainbow Cotton for the Dreamcast had the potential to be a much more improved version of Panorama Cotton, but they just dropped the ball on that hard.
That one bad? How it bad?
Yeah, which is sad, because that is probably the most adorable Cotton game I've ever seen. And
where did it screw up, would you say?
Controls.
Aw, bogus.
Yeah, completely. But Cotton's had a revival in recent years, too, so definitely worth considering for a future roundtable.
Sounds good.
There was a lot of stuff we said we weren't going to discuss originally because it would just lead way too much into discussing series that would make this roundtable like 6 hours long. And as it is, unless someone presents me with a compelling enough idea, this was liable to be the last Cute Retro Games roundtable we do. But that said, I do want to give a shout out to the Disney games that appeared on the NES and the Sega Genesis. Even Mickey Mousecapade to a degree. And yeah, well,
sorry, go ahead.
It is what it is. But games like DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, not so much Tailspin, Little Mermaid, Darkwing Duck.
Spin on NES is kind of sad.
That could have been like a great 1943 kind of game, but I could see
exactly. Like, especially for a Capcom game, like that game's sad. Like, man, Capcom, you dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, I just universally hear how disappointing Tailspin is. Like, rolling off of the arguable high that the rest of their Disney titles generated. I don't know how that one got as screwed up as it did. I haven't even really played it much. The bad press has scared me off from it, and from what I understand, it's mediocre enough that don't even really bother.
We rented it back then, and it was just like, this is all right, I guess.
It was perfectly whelming, is the impression I get.
Yeah, and I know this runs contrary to what a lot of people think, but I am not a fan of Darkwing Duck for the NES. Although I'm more
Duck on NES is... Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm more of a fan of that one than I am the TurboGrafx Darkwing Duck, though.
Yeah. I hear it's one of the worst games ever fucking made.
It's pretty bad, I'll say that. It looks good, but doesn't play good.
Even worse than Energy?
Oh, God.
Quite possibly.
Wow.
As far as the Disney games on the Genesis, I'm mainly speaking of the ones developed by Sega. Not so much like the other ones, but...
Castle of Illusion and Quackshot et al.
Those two in particular. Absolutely love those games.
Yes. Yes, totally.
World of Illusion's not bad. Fantasia blows. Sorry.
That does.
Terrible game.
Oof.
And just to close out with one final thought about a very early Cute game. I absolutely loved Snoopy and the Red Baron for the Atari 2600.
Nice.
Aw.
That game is great. It's a very early shooter, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to, hunt down the Red Baron to get the Allies' supplies of treats back. And it drops all of Snoopy's favorite too, like root beer and ice cream and, all the stuff a dog shouldn't be drinking. But
I was just gonna say, like, the things you should never give to a dog.
exactly. Although there are dog bones and dog bowls in there too, so.
Good.
And I remember when I must have been maybe, 11 or 12 when I first got my copy of that. I played that game, and you have to shoot down 3 or 4 Red Barons in a row to go ahead and advance to the next difficulty level, so to speak. And I forget how long I played that for, but when I finally, my last Snoopy was killed off, I think my kill screen was in up to like 30 or 40 Red Barons.
Crazy.
Nice.
Plus, it had a really nice feature I appreciated. Every time the Red Baron hits you, you actually see a little black dot appear on the side of the doghouse till it actually comes down in like a row of bullets like you see in the Charles Schultz cartoon.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a great game. Brandon did mention Dynamite Heady, but to be fair, we did cover that in the treasure stream we did a while back.
Yep.
Although that is a very cute game.
Yep.
And it's a very good game.
Yes.
Until you get to
Love
that
it.
one spot in the, like, I don't know what stage it's in, but that one boss, which just always killed me.
Funny Angry, the flippy one.
That's the guy.
That one sucks. Nobody likes Funny Angry, or Twin Freaks, as he was known as in the West.
Either way, it sucks.
Yeah, fake difficulty. I really hate bosses where you're fighting the stage more than you're fighting the actual boss. That's basically the textbook definition of what's been known as fake difficulty in some circles I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, really good game, even if the Western version did kind of really nerf your life bar to a bad degree.
Yeah.
Alas. But, I love Dynamite Heady.
That was
Hot take. What?
That was your avatar in the treasure stream.
That is true. I was Heady. That is, yeah. Hot take. It's not my favorite treasure game. That always belongs to Gunstar Heroes, but it is my favorite treasure soundtrack. That game has some really great music.
Oh yeah, agreed.
I think it's a Southtown theme is my favorite.
How'd that one go again?
It's like dun 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 dun.
I remember that song. That song
That
rules.
does really. Yes. Absolutely.
So, yeah, good stuff. So, anyway, let's see. What do we got coming up next? Mike and Kate will both be back with me next week, along with a special guest, Kid Fenris. We will be having a stream about the entire El Viento trilogy.
That'll be in like 2 weeks.
2 weeks, a week, yeah, it's something like that. All I know is that
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the date off the top of my head. Point is
I believe
that
it's August 12th.
yes, you're right about that. So yeah, it would be 2 weeks. So yes, August 12th, we'll be back with the El Viento trilogy.
Nice.
So looking
I'm
forward
really
to that.
looking forward to that.
Oh yeah. I'll save my thoughts on the games for that, but let's just say it's the original El Viento is an old favorite of mine.
It's so good.
Yes.
It is really one of the best action games ever on the Genesis. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. And we have a few other roundtables planned. And for anyone who's still curious about my books and didn't hear what I was saying at the end of the last few streams, yes, they are still coming. Should be September when we get our first real news on them. I'm waiting on the publisher right now to give me some last minute information. And we'll go from there. So, thank you all for coming back for Volume 2 of the Cute Retro Games Roundtable.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, definitely. I'm glad you guys can make it. And I hope everyone enjoyed this look at the other half of the games we couldn't cover in the first one. So.
And sorry for probably being the most profane I've ever been in any stream. I know that's very incongruous, but Yeah, no, I was feeling blue today. It is what it is. Good old Mikey being the goddamn weirdo he always is.
Well,
Fuck.
just remember this, Mike. Okay?
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you.
We like Mike.
I'll be here all week. Try the veal.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Everyone who's in the chat. And if you missed it, by all means, fire up the video. It'll be available soon. Because
Take care,
that's
everybody.
just how YouTube works. So, all right. We will see you all for the LV Hunter Roundtable, hopefully. And until then, everybody have a fun.
Enjoy.
Bye bye.
Take care, everybody.